Welcome back, everybody. Another Noob Hammer interview. Rick is here with Fred Fortman, who just took first place at the Charity Hammer Prep GT. So this was a 5-round GT, and the top 5 or the top 10 are now able to go to the actual Charity Hammer in August. Is that correct?
Top 10, yes.
Great. So you came in first place, which is super cool, playing in Deathwatch. And we'll get into the list a little bit later, but why don't you go ahead and tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and how long you've been playing Warhammer and what made you choose, like, what made you pilot Deathwatch?
Well, I've been playing Warhammer since early third edition, so that would be probably the summer of 1998 is when I started. Um, I played regularly through all of the editions. Maybe took a little break towards the end of fourth, beginning of fifth, but then picked it up again. I started originally. Deathwatch came out early on, like fourth or fifth edition, and they were just a series of metal bits, shoulder pads, and guns that you could buy. The rules for Deathwatch were in the White Dwarf, and you could add a squad of Deathwatch to your normal Marines. And they would be your normal Marines, like an Ultramarines or a White Scars or an Iron Hands, who had just gotten back from the Deathwatch. And so they would have special rules, just that one unit, just a singular unit. Then later on, I think it was in seventh edition or so, a new line of Deathwatch models, plastic models came out. And during the time of seventh edition, it was very cutthroat, the meta, and Deathwatch was nowhere near able to compete. So there were a lot of languishing boxes of Deathwatch on the shelves of GW, and
Like Dusty?
uh, yes, and they were like
Wipe it
almost like
off?
selling them 2 for 1. Get these Deathwatch out of here. Nobody
Fantastic.
wants them right now. So of course, every time been a bar since I've been playing for 23 years. Anytime there's a bargain in 40K and Army, get it then and there because eventually uh, the wheel will turn and that army will get better eventually. So just make sure that you get in when they're cheap,
Fantastic.
which I did, and so they've been sitting around for a long time. And then like all the bits for the uh, regular Deathwatch plastic troops and such. And so got their codex last winter, and um, we were drawn to the heavy intercessors um, with the inceptors at that time, but the heavy intercessors weren't introduced, so it was kind of half on, half off for me.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a high school science teacher, so actually during the school year, it's difficult for me to work on 40K stuff. It's really I really focus it during the summer months. So it wasn't until probably about May that I settled on a Deathwatch list that I really liked that didn't need the heavy intercessors, which still hadn't been released.
Yeah.
Um, so that's how that all started. And then
Man, that
I
that
wanted to.
pariah Nexus thing was not. I mean, I know with Brexit and then COVID, obviously, and it was a real nightmare for them to release things
Yeah,
on schedule. But yeah, that felt bad.
I think it worked out to my advantage because I ended up not using heavy intercessors. The list is much faster, and
Yeah,
I like it a lot better because of that. I wanted to play the Death Watch in the Atlantic City Open in June, which I had gone to, but school hadn't let out, so I wasn't able to paint them up, and I wanted them to be painted up. I'm getting to be a little bit more a traditionalist in my old age, and so instead of just a 3-color minimum, I want an actual decent looking army on the
gotcha.
table. So I was not going to bring them to Jersey unless they were finished. And that didn't happen until probably the Monday before the Charity Hammer Prep GT
Wow,
is when I finished when I finished the librarian, and then the list was painted and done, and I could bring it.
very cool. Um, so Deathwatch, you just started picking it up because it was cheap, and you are a frugal man.
That's how I ended up getting all the models. And then
Right.
when the Codex came out last winter, and I saw all the versatility in there. I've been a Marine player forever, and so
Mm-hmm.
I really liked that. Oh, I could for a turn I could be this Marine, or a turn I could be that Marine. It was the options were very fun to play with.
Yeah, man, that's what drew me to the army too. Is I got into this during quarantine. I bought a Grey Knights army off of my friend, but when that Deathwatch supplement hit, and I was reading about it, like I was like, oh, I am into that. Oh, I am into that. But then I got to the Brotherhood of Veterans strat, and I was sold. That was it. It's like, well, now I have to go buy an Indomitus box and buy some Deathwatch veterans, and yeah, I
That's
love
how
how
yeah,
flexible this army is. So
that's how Games Workshop gets you.
for sure, I mean, I don't mind painting my little plastic Barbie dolls, right? It's all good.
Oh, and I think Deathwatch are like are none the best looking Marine army you could put on the table. I've got a Crimson Fist army that's huge. It's all painted. A White Scars army I'm looking at right now on the shelf that's all painted.
Ooh,
And
white,
well, I've
brave
just
man.
learned how to do that. That was my quarantine project.
Nice.
But the Deathwatch, look, the Deathwatch, I mean, they're so simple with the black, but the red guns pop out, and then the shoulder pads being unique to each chapter,
Yep,
that just makes the army just it just looks really cool, you know,
I
on the
absolutely
tabletop. A
agree.
fully
Yeah.
painted Deathwatch army is the coolest looking army.
And the those bright silver left arms and everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean
yeah, yeah.
it can be bright if you want, but anyway, I love it too. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I really dislike edge highlighting. It is just like the most monotonous, horrible, tedious thing in my eyes. And so I can just use 2 or 3 dry brush colors and really make all the edges pop on the black without really worrying about like over brushing. I like Godspeed to all of you that can actually sit there and like edge highlight for 45 minutes per model. I don't have the patience for that. So I just dry brush everything in like big batches. I love it, but it still looks great. Or at least I think so. I mean, I'm not gonna win any golden demons, but I still think it pops really well. If you
Oh, absolutely. If you're
just
happy
dry
with it,
brush.
that's the most important thing.
Yeah. So you've been playing for a long time. You've been a Marine player. That's very cool. While we're on hobby talk, actually, talk to me about white because like I have white scars guys in my Deathwatch army, so I have to paint white pauldrons, and then
Mhm.
and white always looks streaky to me. I just learned from an Imperial Knights player. He said, no, don't actually use white. Use Wraithbone or some like slight off white, and that way you don't
Yes.
have the pure like because if you want a pure white, there's like, is it titanium? There's some metal which you probably know way more about
Oh,
than I do, but there's some like metal chunks in like pure white paints that just make everything streaky and chunky.
so for white, I will paint them up, base coat them with Corax white,
Okay.
which GGO sells the spray for. Now that's when I did the white scars. But if I'm
Right.
doing the shoulder pads for the Deathwatch, I'm just going to use a brush and just paint on Corax white.
Okay.
And then after that, when that dries, I'm going to put apothecary contrast.
Oh,
It's apothecary white.
yeah, I've
Because
been
well,
meaning to pick that up.
yeah,
It looks good.
that the apothecary white contrast creates shadow in the corner of white. So
Oh
it
man.
creates it gives the shadow that you need, and then it, if it's a light coating, you know, you don't have big splotches, but if it's a light coating of the apothecary white contrast, it'll dry smooth, and you'll have this little shadow line in the corners all around. And then I'll take the skull white. I don't even know if it's called skull white anymore. It might be. That's the white, the really bright white for
Oh,
GW.
yeah,
And
it's
I'll
I think
just
it's called White Scar
yeah.
now.
Okay, it's called White Scar. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's gone through many name changes, but it's the
sure.
same stuff. You do edge, uh, not right in the corner where the shade is, but just a little bit above the shade. Just edge a little line of white. You don't even need to make the line go all the way around. You can just go line, skip, line, skip, line, skip, and then that'll pop.
Uh-huh.
And that's how I do my white. So my white's not pure white, but I mean, it looks like it's white, definitely for sure. It's not like it just came off
Yeah.
it's not the pauldron that just came out of the car wash.
Right.
on the home world.
Yeah.
So it looks really good that way, and it's real simple.
No, that's a great point. Like I've tried everything. I was one guy on, I think it was Facebook, or maybe it was one of the hundreds of YouTube hobby videos I've watched, but they actually said go to like Michael's and buy that $6 giant tube of their cheap white acrylic paint, and they're like, it is so much better. So I did that. I've got this giant bottle. It's like the size of my forearm. It's enormous. And it's just as hard to paint with, but it's not as chunky as the White Scar. So I will definitely try. Like,
It is chunky.
yeah,
Just edge highlight with it, because then it kind of makes the Corax white, which is an off white, pop out a little bit. So you got your
yeah.
shade, you got your white, and then you got your little white that pops it around the edges.
Your base, your layer, and your shade. It's almost like that's the magic formula.
Put on a
uh,
cool podcast, and there you go.
yeah. Bam. All right. So let's jump into your list. But before we do, I just want to do a little like intro to it, if you will. So it is very much like there are definitely things I see here. Recently, John Lennon won the Onslaught GT, piloting a very dreadnought centric brick list with a lot of fast Proteus kill teams with shotguns even. But it sounds like you kind of came up with this idea before the Atlantic City Open, which definitely happened before the Onslaught GT. So you and John Lennon and Jack Harpster are kind of the same mind in the overall foundations of this list being. And I've got your list up here on my screen so that everybody can follow along. So your your dreadnought brick is 2 redemptors and 2 relic contemptors, of course, with the twin volkites, and then you also run, of course, the macroplasma incinerator, because why wouldn't you? So very cool. And then you have the captain and the tech marine. You got Master of the Forge with Brilliant Strategist, which is just like in Jack Harpster's list. You've got nowhere to hide, so you can take away cover from one unit. The Dominus Aegis to give the 5-up invul to the Redemptors, which is their only downside to that unit, because like Redemptors are amazing and they're big chonky boys that are actually hard to move. But yeah, you even have the Vorkan pattern auspicicator for fly, which I'm sure you were using to pop raiders, because at the time Druhkai were such a horrific menace. So go ahead and tell me, like, you said you were figuring this out on your own because you didn't have any heavy intercessors to run the Indomitor kill team. So like, man, there's a lot of parallels here. It's really cool.
I have this up on my notes, the list right now, and it says at the top version 6,
Uh-oh.
because this is the 6th version of the Deathwatch list, and it's just really, to be completely honest, the only things in the list that have made it through all 6 versions are the 2 contemptors with the twin volkites. I got those last January.
They're so good right now.
Because I really wanted them with the Tome of Ectoclades relic, and then it really is. It's not like I had an epiphany back in January that the twin volkites would be this phenomenal as they are. It's because my main playtest partner is a Deathguard player, and he just spams the Poxwalkers. So I needed something to get rid of
Oh
Poxwalkers, and what's
man,
better
yeah.
than 16 shots from a
The
volkite to
mortal
get rid of
wounds.
Poxwalkers? Yeah, so it just turned out that way. And then some of the Proteus kill teams, parts of them, like because they all get combat squatted
Hmm.
before every game, but the the Storm Shield guys on foot, and the bite guys, those are the only ones that kind of made it all the way through. But the list has morphed through many iterations, and all the way up through version 5. I had a unit. I had a Proteus kill team with 4 Infernus heavy bolters, you know, the ones that are the heavy flamer plus the heavy bolter
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, I've
Because
been
I just thought that was a fantastic unit.
I love that model too.
But when the support characters for it started disappearing, including the Watchmaster to give it full rerolls, a chaplain on bike with the beacon and jealous to slingshot them forward,
Yeah.
so I could surgically remove a unit deep in the lines. When all those started disappearing, then that unit disappeared finally with version 6. So it there's influences in here from, of course, Jack Harpster and John Lennon, from the Art of War podcast. I'm a subscriber to that. There's influences there.
Same.
There's probably the shotguns. I didn't. I wasn't fully invested in the shotguns. They had been since before New Jersey, and I think I made a friendly bet with them that after New Jersey, they would put the storm shields back in because they would need storm shields instead of shotguns, but they didn't, and they won
So,
as far as I'm concerned.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Uh,
Jack placed 11th with this, you know, at
yeah.
at the Atlantic City Open. Placing 11th is resume worthy for sure.
So um, overall, I like it. I enjoy it. For the list, really, the real strength behind it is definitely the 4 Proteus Kill Teams. They win the game. If anything, the Redemptors are kind of what we used to say is a distraction carnifex. So their
Yeah.
job is to wave their arms out in the open and say, "Shoot me, shoot me, shoot me." Don't look at those bike kill teams that are coming up the corners, running through walls, taking
Oh yeah.
objectives.
Mwah.
And you really can't ignore the Redemptors because they'll take a pound of flesh if you don't. But their job is to keep the pressure off the kill teams while the kill teams are getting primary and secondaries.
Yeah, I that's one of the things that I immediately noticed when I was like, okay, he's doing the dreadnought brick thing, and I'm like, oh wait, hold on, he's actually missing one of the Redemptors from Jack's and John's list, and then it's like, oh, he brought another Proteus Kill Team instead, and then you are missing the lieutenant. I think John had a Reaver lieutenant, and it was to turn off OBSEC if another like unit made it into his back lines, but and obviously the reroll ones to wound all the time instead of just against one battlefield roll. But yeah, I saw your list and I'm like, holy shit, like this is the list I need to play, because when I've tried Dreadnought brick style lists, I always feel like I don't have enough board presence. And
Right.
and I'm a very new player. I'm not like John or Richard or Nick, so I can't like go with the flow and figure it out. Like I need that board presence to go out and actually sit on things and be obnoxious and get tied up in combat. And so I really like this. So good on you. I didn't think about dropping Redemptor, but I've been playing for just over a year, so still learning a lot about lists.
It could go down to 1 Redemptor, but then I would worry about whether 1 would just be a distraction carnifex enough. I live outside of the Chicago, about 40 miles west of Chicago, Northern Illinois, and our main tournament organizer here sets up his tournaments with the WTC terrain,
Okay.
World Team Championship terrain from Europe. Now that is a extremely heavy
Mm-hmm.
terrain set where everything is preset on the entire board for every mission. You get a big giant packet for where all the terrain pieces are, and there's usually several large L's that block line of sight, and there's no windows in any of these things. Then there's smaller ones, and then there's forests in between. It's difficult for Redemptors to move from one part of the board to the other part of the board in that type of terrain. Which is why the kill teams are so invaluable in that type of stuff. You generally, the less terrain you expect at a tournament, the number of Redemptors goes up. So it's an inverse relationship.
That makes sense.
And yeah, and it's definitely a product of the meta. And it's at the Charity Hammer Prep GT, Colin Sherman, who was the TO for the event, he had taken pictures of the terrain. The terrain. Every board had different terrain, but he had taken pictures of several of them and emphasized that this would be a very, very heavy terrain board.
Yeah.
So knowing that,
Okay.
then you don't want to necessarily go to 3 Redemptors because of that.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, with my playstyle, like, I think that that would make the most sense in the first place. Like, having that extra kill team is huge. Like,
Yes.
I got to watch, and I will include links in the description below. I was just finishing up your streamed match against Orks. I think you were playing Lucas.
Yes.
And I was just finishing that up. Man, that was a hilarious deployment because the entire deployment zone was just overrun with Orks right before the game started. He didn't hide anything. Like, everything is just whatever. There's no way to hide everything, so let's just put it out in the open.
Oh, yeah. 14 smash-a-guns and 120 orc boys are difficult to hide on a board when you're deploying. Absolutely.
Yeah, but man, those were like, those dreadnoughts just, I think he was down to almost no boys at the end of turn 3. I think he just smacked him around so hard. It was it turn
That's what
3 or
the
turn
Volt.
4?
Yeah.
Yeah, those Volkites were
Yeah.
just often. I mean, even with 1 AP, they're just often boys, like no one's business.
And the fast movers, I call them fast movers because when the 4 kill teams all combat squad, there's going to be 4 walking 5-man units and 4 combat squads that are a combination of bike and jump pack.
Mhm.
And so their minimum move is 12 inches.
Yeah.
And so I call those the fast movers. And they do a lot of damage to hordes themselves
Yeah,
with their attacks.
so I want to ask you a little bit. So best coast pairings doesn't always do the best job of, like, actually showing you what all the specific war gear is, because on this list you have a couple of storm shield guys with no weapon, and I am assuming that is false, and you have them with the normal Deathwatch bolter. Because I know in that game I was watching that you were using special issue ammunition. So I figured that was just a mistake that didn't pop up into best coast. But just for anybody listening, he is not so sure of himself that he is not bringing a free gun. It is just a mistake. But I did also...
I think I...
Oh, go ahead.
No, go
sorry.
ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I see you have 2 bike heavy teams and then 1 Vanguard vet heavy team. I don't know if that was by design or so you have 1.
2
Yep.
of the teams have 4 bikes
Oh,
and
sorry,
1 Vanguard vet.
teams, yeah.
The other 2 teams have 4 Vanguard vets and 1 bike.
Right. And is that just
So
is
it's
that just a
4-1.
model, or was that a points?
No, because I want at least 1 bike and 1 Vanguard vet in each unit so that I could use the bike allows me to use the 1 CP strat for Deathwatch to fall back and charge.
Yeah.
And the Vanguard vet allows me to use the 1 CP strat to fall back and shoot. So in 4 bikes and 1 Vanguard vet, they could fall back and shoot. They could fall back and charge. They could do both if I'm going to spend 2
Yeah.
CP. And while it's only bolters and they're not special ammunition bolters, it's the bikes still have 16 shots. So falling back and shooting, especially against nonsense servitors that are holding an objective, or orcs which have a 6 armor save. Even witches, Dark Eldar witches don't want to be shot because they only have a 6+ invulnerable when they get shot.
Yeah.
Before turn 3. So wanted to have the ability to do both. Plus the 1 Vanguard vet with the 4 bikes. The Vanguard vet teaches the bikes how to open doors. So then the bikes can go through ruin walls. If he ever dies, the Vanguard vet dies, then the bikes lose the infantry keyword, and then they gain the biker keyword. So now they can't go through walls, though they can auto advance. They can auto advance 6 inches. You don't need to roll it anymore, and they can still advance and charge if you turn them into white scars. But so I really try to. That's why it's 4 and 1, 4 and 1, kind of in that mix.
Interesting. I was speaking to Denise Liana Gama from the Normal Blokes podcast. He runs a lot of Deathwatch over in AU, running in teams usually. But he said he's had a lot of luck with two Vanguard vets because you can also not only do they open doors and allow them to run through terrain, at least through breachable terrain. They also have the storm shield, so they can take a hit or two, and even if you lose one, you still have another as backup. So are you taking? I guess you're deciding at the time based on what weapon they've been hit with whether or not you're gonna take it on the Vanguard vet or the biker, because the bikers are toughness 5. And the way the Deathwatch Kill Team rules work is that if the majority of the units or models left in the unit are toughness, whatever, you take their highest average. So you're definitely running with only toughness 4 on those 1 bike units, but you're toughness 5 on those 4 bike units. So do you find that a detriment? Because at least for me, as a new player, I want units to be very similar, and that way I don't mess things up in my mind. So that whole 3 biker 2 van vet seems like a really good combination because you've still got that minimum 12-inch movement. You've still got those 2 storm shields. They still have the infantry keyword, and then they also still have toughness 5. So do you find that a detriment with the 4 Vanguard vet units that they're all toughness 4 now, or you've just already played around with that?
Well, redundancy in your army list is very powerful in 40K. And having 4 combat squads, 4 fast movers, which are identical, does have its advantages. But
Mm-hmm.
what I found is that um, the 4 Vanguard, the kill team that has 4 Vanguard vets and 1 bike, what they do is they have 4 lightning claws. And so that unit then can
Oh
go
yeah.
into an enemy unit that I really want a lot of reroll wounds on. So it would be something like a Skitarii, 20-man unit for Admech. I could tee the little 5-man unit off into the Assault Doctrine for 1 CP, or I can just turn Assault Doctrine on for the entire turn.
Oh man.
And they will go in with all those lightning claws at AP -3 to get around the ignore -1 and -2 ability that one of those Skitarii blobs could have, and they can start cutting through them rather quickly. So the reason for the 4-1 that I have is kind of because in a 4-1 relationship, I still have the flexibility to fall back and shoot and fall back and charge. I also now have a little bit more specialization for that 1 unit to attack this specific type of target.
That's a great point.
Um,
Glad I
it's
asked.
kind of yeah, that's kind of what I was going for that. But I definitely see the utility of like 3 bikes and 2 Vanguard vets. Um, that I see that utility for survivability. But another thing also is thing that this list has that some of the other ones you mentioned didn't have is the librarian, and the librarian takes one of the powers he always takes is the 5+ feel no pain, and so
Yeah, man,
getting
fortified is
having
such a
4
great
bikes,
power.
yeah, having 4 bikes means that I have more wounds to get the feel no pain
Yeah.
off of because they're 3 wounds each as opposed to 2 wounds. And if you're getting attacked by lower AP stuff, then sometimes it doesn't make that much of a difference. But yeah, I can see it because there's a lot of times I don't necessarily, in a 4 bike and 1 Vanguard vet, there's a lot of times I'm not necessarily taking the invulnerable save off the Van vet just because I don't want to lose the ability yet
Mm-hmm.
to go through breachable terrain. Once I reach that point, if the unit is far enough into my enemy's deployment zone, then I don't need to really cross any more breachable terrain. Then the
Yeah.
Vanguard vet is kind of um, he's expendable at that point.
Gotcha. So you actually just brought up a great point that just kept got my brain in gear. But so in my interview with Z, Deathwatch SH, he plays in China, and he's big on the Indomitor Kill Team. He loves it, and he takes flame aggressors, and I guess it's just crushing the meta over there right now. He's seeing a lot of success. But over in my interview with him, he talks about the math of fortified with a contempt, which is that 5-up feel no pain power. And he's like, if you put that on a tier 5 or tier 5 toughness 5 3-wound unit like the Indomitor Kill Team, which also I just made the connection that that's the same base stat line as this 4-bike, mostly this 4-bike Kill Team, right? So you now have toughness 5, 3 wounds on 4 of the 5 models. He did the math, and he's like, it's actually increasing on average your wounds by almost 50%, because of the way that the rolling, like you're rolling that last. So it's like it's actually an average of, your 30 wound unit is now effectively a 45 wound unit, and that's actually really hard to shift. Now obviously the Indomitor Kill Team's all Primaris, so you can transhuman them and make them even harder to kill against high strength weapons. But it was an interesting parallel that I see between your kill team and his, although yours is substantially cheaper.
Well, it's cheaper, but
and
no,
faster.
I 100% agree. That's what I like better. It's the speed.
Mm-hmm.
The Indomitor Kill Teams they're just fantastic. However, they're slow, and they cost a lot of points.
A
So
lot.
it's really the speed that I'm looking for, because these fast movers that I have, their job is to attack my opponent's primary mission, which is to hold objectives.
Yeah.
A lot of people kind of take the primary for granted, and they build their lists around their secondaries. Like I build a list, an army list, and this army list is going to do these 2 secondaries every single time. And the third one, it depends on the mission or depends on my opponent,
Yep.
but it's built around these secondaries. So this list is not necessarily built around secondaries. It's more built to attack my opponent's primary. And I can only do that with speed by getting across the table as fast as possible with OBSEC. It's so valuable to have these OBSEC bikes and OBSEC Vanguard vets. Normally, a Marine player would need a character with Rights of War Warlord trait nearby to give bikes or Vanguard vets OBSEC. But here, I could just send them off on a mission on their own. And with OBSEC, I'm taking away my opponent's primary score from the beginning. I'm attacking something that they're usually
Yeah.
just taking for granted or think their army is just going to get naturally. And most of the time, they're absolutely correct. But so I'm kind of attacking something different with this list.
Yeah. I love to remind. I mean, I think it drives my friends crazy, but I remind them all the time. I'm like, no, my Van Vets are sorry. Like,
Yes.
like yes, there's only 2 left in that unit against your Death Shroud Terminators, but guess what? I still get to score my 5 more points, but right before you get to absolutely murder them. Yeah, it's really great.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, cool. So then the other thing that I wanted to ask you about your list, it's crazy that this game, like, I love how deep this game gets, that like you and I can just sit here for almost 40 minutes now and just like we've only talked about your list really. So love that. But you're taking power swords. Have you thought about power axes? Or is the AP that important? Because I feel like right now, power axes with the +1 strength, right? That is going to be letting you wound tier toughness 3 things. So Admech, Sisters, and Druhkai on 2s. It's going to be letting you wound toughness 5 things like the upcoming Ork boys, assuming of course that they're not all going to run snake bites. But you'll be wounding Deathguard and the new boys on 3s instead of 4s, and you're losing 1 AP, but in the assault doctrine you're already at -3 AP, which is still a lot. And you're knocking most things on to their invul anyway. Things that don't have invuls you're probably knocking down to a very low save. Like you're gonna be moving an intercessor's save down to 6. So yeah, they still get a save instead of not, but also like I don't know. It seems really good to me because you're gonna be affecting more of the overall range for the same amount of points.
So here's this list. The heart of the list, including the bikers,
Hmm.
was conceived of in a different meta. So the
That's
list is
fair.
made, and then I start painting it, and it takes me a long time to paint, especially during the school year. So those power swords were built and designed. The power sword bikers were built and designed in a meta of Necrons and a meta of Custodes.
Yeah,
So in January they had the Las Vegas Nopen, that's with an N,
yep.
that was run
I
where
watched a lot of that.
podcaster,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes, and
But
the
uh,
winning
but
list, the
but
winning list was a Custodes army that had a whole bunch of storm shields, right?
yeah. So just for our viewers who maybe didn't watch it, the Las Vegas Open, not Nopen, but Open, is one of the largest tournaments, probably the largest tournament every year. It's in Las Vegas every year. But last year, obviously, with COVID, they couldn't hold it. So they did the Las Vegas Nopen as a joke. And very high level players were chosen, a lot of podcasters and other content creators, and they basically just shared their list. So instead of one player piloting the same list throughout the whole tournament, the lists actually made it throughout the tournament, and the players would play other lists throughout it. And the list that ended up winning was, I think it's a bunch of Storm Shield Custodes, like you said, with some guard. Is that right? I think it had a guard, or
Uh,
maybe, yeah, I think that's
it
right.
was either,
Um,
yeah, I think you're right.
yeah. So that's a very
Shield
good
Wall was
point.
the name of the list.
Yeah, it's a very good point that you.
They were designed. They were designed to try to go through that because also because in the wintertime, Custodes was pretty powerful in the meta, and it, their um, their uh, Terminators have a stratagem that allows them to ignore AP1 and AP2. This was, before Admech could get it
Sure.
onto their hordes. So I needed a reliable way to try to get through Custodes Terminators who could ignore AP1 and AP2. And
Uh-huh.
so there you go. It's the AP3 of the sword.
Right.
Now, you're right. I could turn them into assault doctrine, but sometimes I don't want to do that
Yeah.
because I don't want to turn assault doctrine on because tactical doctrine is valuable. Devastator for the dreadnoughts is the most valuable. So it kind of gave me the flexibility of send somebody off on their own. Also, at that time, this is probably version 4 of this list. At the time, those bike squads were one of them at least was tied to an Infernus heavy bolter team. So
Okay.
I was going to give both of them, the Infernus Heavy Bolter team and then the bikes that go with them. It was going to give them the Deathwatch. It's like 30 points. I don't remember the name of it,
It's
but
the
it
specialism to kill
yes,
troops.
to
Troops.
troops,
Yeah.
specialism to kill
I
troops.
think that's
Exactly.
the Führer.
Führer
It's like,
doctrine, I think
yeah,
it is. Yes.
Führer. Like,
Yes. So
yeah, specialism. Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So that would, if they have that specialization, then they're re-rolling ones to wound on troops for the entire game. And if I start the game with my whole army rerolling ones against troops, then that specific unit with the Fur Doctrine will reroll all wounds
Yep.
against troops. Now, what is this designed to do? It's designed to take out a blob of 20 Necron warriors who
Yep.
you have to be able to kill in
Yep.
one go, or else they all res and stand back up again. So the
Yep.
bikes were going to come forward in tactical doctrine, and they were going to shoot all their bolters at
Uh-huh.
AP -1 and reroll all wounds, and then they were going to assault with the power swords and reroll all wounds, right? And try to take out these 20-man blobs. So these are vestigial relics
Gotcha.
of a different meta
I
because it
love that
takes me so
term.
long to pace stuff up.
So,
However, right now when you're explaining the axes to me,
yeah.
I'm sitting here at first I'm like, no, I like the power swords. And then you go in more into what the axes can do. And then I'm like,
Yeah,
Many
you're like,
axes? How many
shit, I gotta
axes can
buy
I get
some
my hands
axes.
on?
Yeah. Do you do the right thing? And I'm phrasing it that way to be a little bit of an ass, but like, do you magnetize? Because like, I didn't magnetize my Grey Knights and whatever. They don't have that many options. But when you play Deathwatch, I looked in Battlescribe and it's like, I don't even want to do the math on how many technical combinations of weapons and equipment there are for Deathwatch because it's ridiculous. And so I was like, nope, I am magnetizing. So I have magnetized like every single dude I have, and it's for that exact like, okay, swords aren't good now. I guess I get to paint up a bunch of axes and then I'll just swap them on real fast. Um, or are
So there's
you
two things.
old
No,
school?
I don't magnetize. I'll do
Oh
one of
no.
two things. I'll do one of two things. Um, Usually the hands, especially all the sword guys, because bikes, marine bikes don't come with swords. They
No.
come with chain swords.
Yeah.
So what happens is all of the chain sword arms get snipped right at the wrist, and then I
Mhm.
smooth it out, and then I'll put the hand with the sword right into that smooth spot. And
Okay.
so if I need to change the
So you can
weapon,
just kind of
like
snap them
it's
off a
a
little bit.
right,
Just bink.
and all that happens is the
Okay.
glue breaks, but everything can still be used again.
Right.
The other thing that happens, if it's a bigger change, like a whole weapon is load out, my army is 40 Deathwatch Proteus Kill Team members, and my box has about 50 more. So I'll just buy uh, a brand new guy has that option already. I'm I think I tried magnetizing like demons at one point,
Ooh.
and
Well, they have like
it
tiny
just it
arms.
just well, I think it was greater demons and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And it was just and that wasn't even to swap their weapons or anything. It was just for transport purposes, because they have the big wings that come off and everything.
Yeah,
And this is
absolutely.
a long time ago, and it was just a big mess. And so I don't think if I have anything it's magnetized, is because somebody did it for me, or I got it was already magnetized and I got it in a trade or something.
Yeah, the only
So
things I haven't magnetized are my heavy intercessors, and I have so many intercessors now that I haven't magnetized them either. I'm
yeah.
like, I've got
I
10,
really do.
I've got 10 with stalkers, and everyone else has the auto bolt guns, and that's good enough.
I really do like your idea of the axes, especially now with the orcs being toughness 5, because no, this army was conceived last January and February. There's no
Yeah.
toughness 5 orcs or anything like that. So
Well,
power
they're
swords being strength 5, that was good enough. But you could be right in that respect, and I might be snipping axes off before I go to
well,
Cherry Hammer. We never
it's
know.
it's not even like it's I mean, honestly, toughness 5 boys are crazy. Um, but like for me it's that strength 6 is like a weird sweet spot where sisters who are also good, Druhkai who are still over a 60% win rate are still very good, right? So that strength 6, you're wounding them on 2s. As
Yeah.
Deathwatch, you're probably re-rolling 1s to wound. So like your amount of wounds that get through are just like, assuming you live long enough to swing back anyway. But like, on the charge, you can just wreck incubi and witches. They're all toughness 3, you know. And then they are Xenos, so we can use our stratagem for one more attack. We're gonna reroll 1s to hit in combat. Like it's I think the axe is a
No, I'm
real
running
good
through.
sweet spot right
Yeah,
now.
I'm running through different matchups right now as you're talking, and I think you're right. I think they maybe should all be axes.
Well, I'm glad to have helped. We talk about this stuff a lot on the Deathwatch Discord, which I think I got you an invite to. And for anybody listening who plays Deathwatch and wants to talk to a whole bunch of nerds that also play it, there's a link in the description down below. But yeah, we were. I think we came to this conclusion just a couple days ago. But some of us have been running it for weeks now and are like, no, this is going to be like, this is a like silent pick at the moment. And
Yeah.
I think everybody should be rolling Other than lightning claws, like you should be rolling with axes. Like
Get lightning claws on bikes, that would be perfect, but you can't. So yeah,
no,
you're right. No, I think you're right.
so the axe is like, wow, it's in a great spot. And then I also see, switching to another list question, you're running a lot of the chain swords, which I have been using a lot in my list lately as well, just because like it's so, you're like, oh, if I had 15 more points, I could squeeze in this other thing, right? Whatever, some list altering thing. And so it's like the first thing I make go away are the power swords that naturally come on the Deathwatch veterans, and I switch them uh to to chain swords, which hilariously, other than the fact that you can't transhuman them, actually makes a Deathwatch veteran better than a base intercessor for the same price. 20 points.
I agree.
Yep. Yeah, they all have a chain uh sword now. I think intercessors you can only give it to the sergeant. So
Correct.
like man, and then sometimes just weight of dice is all you need. I mean, a normal veteran on the charge is going to go from 3 to 4 attacks, and that's a lot of attacks.
It is at AP -1, and you can control the doctrines so well with it. I think my first choice with those foot teams, my first choice is Storm Shield Bolter.
Mm,
And I've got like 10 Storm Shield Bolter guys painted up, but there's only 4 on the list because when I need points for other things, the Storm Shields start coming out because they're 5 points each. And then they turn into the Bolter Chainsword guys because you're right, you're getting a lot of value for that chainsword. And their job, especially those 2 units that have the storm shields with the bolters, and there's only 2 storm shields in each squad, only because the number has kept going down. It was originally 5, but then it went to 3, and now it's at 2 because I keep adding something else here or something else there. It's that librarian which is costing me a bunch of storm shields right now. But their job is usually to sit on backfield objectives and babysit them. And with storm shields, they become enough of they have enough defense that nonsense can't interfere with them. Like 5 Taraxi coming down deep striking can't take out those guys, and
yeah.
their counter charge is going to be devastating. And so, really, to get rid of them, my opponent's going to need some strong indirect fire. Hello, Squig Buggy, or my
Or
opponent is going to need
PVCs.
something. Right. Well, even then, I'm sitting in cover, and
Yeah,
I
that's
have a
true.
three plus save with the storm shield against a
Yeah,
plague burst crawler. So it,
true.
it and they're not. I mean, if you're going to shoot the entropy cannons at them, go right ahead. There's 4 dreadnoughts staring at you, shooting back. So they're kind of living for a while. So if Death Shroud Terminators come in uh, deep strike 9.1 inches away from a backfield unit of mine, their flamers aren't going to really affect me. They're going to have to make that 9 on the charge
Yeah.
to get to me.
In
And
which
even
case
then, I always
it's
have a
over
chance
anyway.
of surviving.
Yeah.
You always have a chance of surviving
Yeah,
with a couple
but
storm shields.
I mean, if they
I'm
make their
OPSEC
nine
and they're not,
inch,
and I hold it again.
yeah,
Yeah.
if they make their 9 inch, if Death Shroud Terminators make their 9 inch, like, and you live, hey, cool. But otherwise, I'm like, oh, I'm just riding off that unit, right? It's like
Usually, you're right.
yeah, they're
If
gonna
you had 5, if I had 5 storm shields, then I'd have a much better chance of surviving.
absolutely,
So that's
but
kind
that's
of their
20 more
job.
points,
Just
or
nonsense can't get
sorry,
rid of them. Yeah,
10 more
it
points,
is. It's
or
20 more
15 more
points. Yeah.
points, but yeah. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, okay. Well, very cool. I love this. I laughed, by the way, you were playing against orcs and you used a frag grenade and you forgot what, because I forget that I even have grenades a lot of the times. Uh, and you actually said on stream, like, I roll to hit, right? I never use these things.
I know I've never used one before, but it was just a situation to use them.
Yeah, and it
Right.
like murdered 3 boys or something, 1 grenade. It was pretty legit. Um,
I think that was where Vanguard vets assaulted his weird boy, and I
that
had
was it.
all of these attacks, and I
Oh,
even used the Deathwatch stratagem to give the unit +1 attack, so they'd all have even an extra attack. And all I needed to do was kill this weird boy who had no save against all these lightning claws, and
you whiffed.
I whiffed.
You whiffed.
I
Yeah,
whiffed
I
with all the
watched.
rerolls.
The weird boy has like 4 wounds, and you did 2. So all those Van Vets with all their extra attacks, and then you spent CP, like I said, re-rolling so much, and they still only stuck it with 2 wounds. It was pretty funny. I think that game was pretty over at that time, but because you had killed so many boys by that point.
Yeah. He still had most of those mech guns. They were all still firing. I think I had just gotten into those mech guns at that point, but yeah, that was, well, the Weirbo was important to kill too, because he had taken Pierce the Veil. So, and the Weirbo was down there in the corner by my table edge. So, I mean, that was a 15-point secondary. That Weirbo needed to die, and that was the last unit that I had down there that could stop him.
Right.
I'm like, this guy needed to die. I got him on the next fight phase because he was surrounded. It allowed his last boys unit to charge into those Van Vets, because since I didn't kill the unit, I couldn't consolidate far enough away so I wouldn't get charged. So then I got charged, and then that was the end of that. But I got him anyway. That was so he couldn't get Pierce the Veil, and that was important.
Yeah,
it was a fun one. He's gonna get revenge on me with that new Ork Codex this time.
Yeah, he is. I think he's gonna.
That was the old Codex. Now it's the new one. Here it comes.
Well, so this is actually a great transition, because I was going to ask you about your matchups at the Charity Hammer prep then. So, if you want to go through, you did 5 rounds, and it unfortunately Best Coast Pairings is not showing me what those matchups were. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. I do know that you scored 95, 99, or sorry, 95, 95, 99, 69, nice, and 75. So, you smashed
all
it, man.
The ITC battle.
Yeah, you smashed it.
I did pretty good there. The first round was against Justin, who was playing Deathguard against me. Now my regular playing partner, he's a Chicago firefighter, so he was vaccinated in December with the first wave of vaccines, and so and he didn't care if we played. I got vaccinated in February, but he didn't care once he got vaccinated that we were playing or not, because his wife is a Cook County sheriff too, so she was vaccinated in December also. So they were all come over there then and play.
My wife is a respiratory therapist, and I think she was one of the first couple hundred people vaccinated in my state. It was like so fast for her, and then I got to wait 6 months or whatever. But
yeah, my wife had to wait too. Yeah. So, but Justin was playing Deathguard, which means I played that. I don't play as much as a lot of people, but when I do play, it's against Deathguard. So I knew what I needed to do in this matchup. We were playing Scorched Earth. So there was 6 objectives on the table. I took the Long Vigil as one of my secondaries, because
very cool.
He did not have any bloat drones. Those folded bloat drones, which move like 10 or 12 inches, they move real fast. So I knew it would be hard for him to get across the table. For the Long Vigil, as a Deathwatch player, I get 5 secondary points if my opponent does not have a unit within 6 inches of my table edge.
Is it 5 or is it 4?
And I have it's 5.
Oh wow,
a big 5.
I thought it was
so
4. But
so
anyway,
I got yeah. So in Scorched Earth, it's a Dawn of War deployment. So that means you're already kind of far away to begin with. There was 6 ruins on the table, so he had a couple Plague Burst crawlers, so it'd be hard for them to maneuver to get to my table edge. So that was a good secondary I took. I took Oath of Moment, and then I took Raise the Banners High with 6 because the fast movers, the kill teams that are bikes plus Vanguard veterans, can raise banners, because when you're a bike plus a Vanguard veteran, you lose your bike keyword, you lose the fly keyword, but you gain the infantry keyword. So it's real easy for them to get onto objectives and raise those banners right away.
Yeah, I've been I've mentioned this in some of my other interviews, but like the picking secondaries is like its own mini game in the game.
Yes,
And you can be the best
absolutely.
player on the planet with the best list on the planet, and if you pick shitty secondaries, you'll probably still lose.
Oh yeah,
You know,
absolutely,
like,
absolutely.
yeah. So that's yeah. So Deathguard, Long Vigil. Were you worried at all about him deep striking behind you and just screwing over Long Vigil? A bit, because that's what I play a lot against a Deathwatch friend of mine, or Death Guard friend of mine
Yeah.
as well, and he almost always puts Terminators in deep strike and almost always brings them down turn two. Which means I can play against that, sure, but it also means that if I don't kill his Terminators by turn three, I don't have a hope of really getting more than 10 on Long Vigil. Actually, I
So
don't even think you
Justin,
can score Long Vigil turn one, right? Like, I
you
think
can't.
it's just, yeah,
It's got to be turn two.
yeah. So
So
5 points.
Justin, he did put a unit of Terminators in reserve, and he also put a unit 10 Poxwalkers in strategic reserve, so they were coming out the side.
Okay.
However, every single game I combat squad the four Proteus kill teams. So that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I have 15 units that are deployed. The dreadnoughts are going to cover the center. So nobody's deep striking in the center. Um, and the Proteus kill teams, I could spread, I think I put two on the left side and I put four, I don't know, it had to be three. I put three on the left side, a fast mover, and I put two slow movers on the left side. And then I put the other five on the right hand side because I was going to make a strong push on the right hand side. So on turn one, he can't deep strike anywhere.
Right.
So I don't need to spread out yet. I just have to keep, and he doesn't have anything that can move fast. So I'm getting a 5 on the long vigil on turn two because it's just going to happen because I was going first. If I was going second, he has a chance to deep strike or something and put somebody there.
That's fair.
But if I'm going second, that means my oath of the moment is almost guaranteed to have a unit alive in the center of the board at the end of every turn because I'm going second. I can just put somebody there before he could, and he can't react to it. But if I can spread out with those 15 units, I can spread out far enough that to block any of the strategic reserves or the deep strikers from getting within 6 of my board. And that's what I did, or my deployment zone.
Right.
I remember on turn two, I kind of spread out a little bit, kind of widened so that the strategic reserves couldn't come in within 6. The dreadnoughts were kind of flooding the center, but not the center mid board. They were the center kind of just outside of my deployment zone. So and the librarian is not necessarily needed. He's carrying the Vorkin pattern auspicator, but the Death Guard has no fly, so he's not needed near the dreadnoughts. He's needed to cast his psychic powers, but that's 18-inch range, so he can move away from the dreadnoughts. And I just had him in the back, also kind of screening empty spots, so I would um, keep them away. And I kept him out on turn two. I kept him out on turn three. So I got 10 points off the long vigil.
Mm-hmm.
But then he got a plague on the left hand side where I only had the 3 units. He got a plague burst crawler across the table. I got a little greedy, I think, at one time. And I could have zoned out the plague burst crawler for one more turn with a shotgun team. But I don't know. I think I might have just the fast mover. I had a fast mover on the left hand side, and instead of zoning out the plague burst crawler, just stopping just outside of an inch in front of him, so that, or even wrapping the plague burst crawler. That was also another thought that I could do, is wrap him on turn three. I remember I left the shotgun team there alone, and my one fast mover jumped up to assault the tally man who keeps giving him extra
Command
CP
points.
every
Yeah.
turn. Right. He was being protected by, he was in front of the bodyguard Death Guard Terminators. They were behind a wall, so the dreadnoughts couldn't see them, and he was in front of the wall. Uh, so I couldn't shoot him at all, but I could still assault him.
Yeah,
And
you can
he
still
was far
charge.
enough
Yeah.
away. Yeah, he was far enough away that I could assault him, and he was playing Mortarian's Anvil, so that allows the Death Guard player to heroically intervene. But he was far enough away that I could assault the character without getting heroically intervened. And so I took that instead. And then the Plague Birch Crawler got out of the shotguns and got to my within 6 inches of my
Yeah.
bed. So that
Long
I ended up with
vigils.
95 points, and that was a 5. Yeah,
Long vigils rough for me. Like I don't.
it's
I'm not.
very situational,
I'm not
very
brave enough to
situational.
even try it, honestly, because it's just like it's not even. And then there's some mission where like your deployment zone is 24 inches deep, and so now you have a 30-inch area out of a 60-inch board that you
Are
have
you?
to defend. Like that one is just like no, I'm not gonna take
Oh, that's
long
it's only
vigil
if
on
you're
that mission.
yeah. It's very very situational. Basically, Deathguard with outfolded bloat drones in scorched earth, or in a dawn of war deployment, I should say,
Right.
is like one of the only times I'll take the long vigil.
And then
But I mean, it
any
forced him to move the Plague Burst Crawler towards my lines because he could never deep strike in. And I did have a shot. Did have a. I mean, that exposed it to the fire to all the dreadnoughts. However, the dreadnoughts just shot other things every turn.
yeah.
Um, I guess I could have, but I just never did.
Um so is there any other army where you see it and you're like, okay, I'm gonna contemplate taking long vigil unless I heard somebody on a podcast say recently like Admech might be good for long vigil because assuming they don't have any of those Taraxi or whatever, but like right now the big Admech meta, and I do want to talk to you in depth about how you deal with Admech. Like, what is it? Manny took the Gibraltar GT with like 140 Scutari and six laser chickens, and that was his list. It was just like Rangers and Vanguard and laser chickens and HQs,
I don't
obviously.
think
But
Manny didn't take any laser chickens. It was 140
really, I thought he had.
Skitarii. Yeah,
Hmm.
he had 27 Cerberus Raiders, the hounds, the
Oh,
dogs.
I see. Okay, so
No
his
vehicles in that
other.
list.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So the I don't know because um which, uh the AdMech player I played did not have any Cerberus Raiders who have a pregame move,
Mm-hmm.
so they can get close to your lines. And he did not have any infiltrators, who also can start very close to your lines. But the other AdMech players who were there, the AdMech player I had 4 flyers, and for the long vigil, flyers don't count. So if they have a flyer in your deployment zone, it doesn't count.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but this was also one of those. It was a deployment where it's like you're in your little box and they're in their little box kitty corner to you, and you're just 18 inches away, so you start pretty close to each other's deployment zone. So I wasn't going to take it there, but most of the other admech players though had either Cerberus Raiders or infiltrators, and the infiltrators, if you go second, are going to move up 9 inches and they're going to assault your lines, or at the very least block it out. And so it would have, it's really, the long vigil is really only a very specific type of build on a specific type of deployment.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be custodes, because if you have enough units, I have enough units that I could zone out the board for a while. And custodes, anything
Against
that starts
bikes.
on the table is more of a threat than deep strikers sometimes.
Yeah. Don't
Um,
custodes have like really fast bikes though? Those Dawn Eagles or
if they
whatever.
take
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like 95. They need a points drop. They're like almost 100 points. They're like 95 points each.
That
They're only
sounds
4
like
wounds with a 4+ invulnerable.
that sounds like
They need a point
custodes.
drop. Yeah, it
they're
does.
they're
It does. No,
they're all
this is
100
the only
points.
time yeah, this is the only time I took long vigil. And in one of the games with my regular playing partner, I took long vigil against him on the same deployment map. He had 2 folded bloat drones, and I just made sure I killed them. But uh, I think that's about it. It's
Yeah.
real hard. I
Okay.
mean, you force your opponent. If your opponent's list does not have nonsense, what I mean by nonsense, I mean like throwaway units, like a land speeder storm or like 5 scourges, something that can move fast that they don't care if they lose or not. It's sometimes people refer to those as action monkeys. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they're cheap units that are fast, that are just designed to do actions or be a throwaway unit. If the list doesn't have those, long vigil opens up a little bit, because it's hard. My opponent had deep striking Terminators, the Deathguard opponent, but he could not deep strike them into my deployment zone or near my deployment zone because I was making such a hard push into his deployment zone. So he actually deep struck them back in his
Oh,
deployment zone to protect
defensively.
his characters again. Because, yeah, because the attack was happening so fast. I was jumping into his deployment zone with the fast movers on the right hand side. On my first turn, I raised the banners on 4 objectives, and I had a cluster on the right hand side
That's
in
awesome.
the mid board, and I was behind a ruin. So I was just using that as a launching pad. And then on turn 3, I just launched forward from that launching pad deep into his deployment zone and attacked targets of opportunity, things that I could damage or kill that really couldn't kill me back. That's what I was going for. And then I would consolidate in the assault phase onto an objective. So he didn't have the OBSEC
That's so
to
cool.
stop me from doing that. And so I just kept shutting off his primary. Now, when this is happening and he's got those Terminators in Deep Strike, you can come try to shut off the long vigil, or you can try to get some primary. He got 0 primary on turn 2. He got 10 points of primary on turn 3, but then he got zeros on 4 and 5. My opponent finished with just 10 points on primary. Um, he took raise the banners, and this is a 6 objective game, but he got a 0 on banners because I took them all down on turn 2 and was always fighting on his objectives for the rest of the game, so he could never raise them again. So it kind of comes a situation, yeah, go to my deployment zone. I'll lose, lose 5 or 10 points on long vigil, but means your entire deployment zone's mine. I think I got enough to kick out a unit of Terminators. I mean, they might hammer my long vigil, but um, that's how that ended up. Really, long vigil is very situational. It's very situational. It's kind of a neat thing in the back pocket
Yeah.
if you run into a very specific type of build.
Yeah, if they're slow rolling forward, it's like a guaranteed 10 points. Or they have a
Heavy
lot of
elite
flyers
army.
or something. Yeah.
Yes,
All right.
exactly.
Well, let's get into your matchup number 2 then. So you
Chip
crush
number 2.
Deathguard. And then
I played Necrons.
nice.
This army list is referred to as the arcing lot army list. So it's called the arcing lot because there are 3 Tesseract arcs, which are a vehicle, Necron vehicle from Forge World.
Uh-huh.
They're only 10 wounds, but they come with a 4+ invulnerable save standard, and they have a high strength gun which can shoot 3 different types of profiles, and they have 2 Gauss cannons. So they put out a lot of shots, but they're close to 200 points for this unit. And then they have 3 Doomsday arcs. They have
Oh
3
wow.
Ghost arcs. So there's basically 9 arcs of subtype in the list. That's why they call it the arcing lot.
Yeah.
And there was
So
5
the Tesseract
Immortals, a
arc
couple
you said?
characters. Yes, Tesseract, 3 Tesseract arcs from
Those are
Forge World.
500 points apiece.
Oh, no, not those things.
Yeah, and I don't think you can take more than one.
Oh, no. It's called the Tesseract arc.
Those are I'm looking at its data sheet right now. That thing is 500 points. I can look up his
Uh,
list actually while I'm um on Best Coast. So who was the Necrons player? Was it Michael or was it Nicholas?
Michael, he
12th.
finished in 12th.
Yeah. So it looks like
Tesseract arc,
yeah,
100
but
points,
only
200
200
points.
points. I wonder. Oh, I'm at the vault. The not the arc. The vault. So
Yeah,
that's on me. My bad. Tesseract.
arc.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'll find it in here somewhere. All right. So lots of Doomsday arcs, lots of Tesseract arcs. All right. And
Two units of Ophidian destroyers who can deep strike. They're like close combat monkeys.
mhm.
He had
That's
a
cool. I
hex.
haven't even
Yeah.
seen that model in person. No one uses it. That's cool.
They're -1 to hit in close combat. I think they have close in total. They have like 6 attacks each. Um, half of
Wow.
them are I think 4 of them are 2 damage. 2 of them are 1 damage. They reroll ones to hit on their own because they're a destroyer. All destroyers do that. They only have a 4+ armor save, and they only have a toughness 4 with 3 wounds. They're more of a missile. They don't survive too well, but they hit really hard. And they
Mhm.
can, if they're on the table, there's a stratagem for them, one CP stratagem, if they're on the table, to put them into deep strike.
Okay.
So they could pop around a little bit
All right.
if you're
So
not careful.
kind of like the Triaxi or Triarii or
Exactly. Yeah.
from Admech.
Yeah. So this was a retrieval mission. So it's another um, bunch of objectives. And this is hammer and anvil deployment, if you remember that. So it's the sideways one.
Mhm.
I took Raise the Banners High. I took Oath of Moment. And I took Bring It Down because he had so many vehicles.
So no,
Um,
you didn't take God, is it no prisoners where it's the wound value of the unit, or is that only infantry? I'm sorry.
that is only infantry,
Okay.
not, and
So
it can't be a character either. So
right.
that wouldn't work. But his vehicles Bring It Down. They were all more. The Tesseract Arcs were 10 wounds, but everything else was more than 10. So it was like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 34. 15 was like the max I could get, and I got all 15, I think. Let me check the results.
Yeah.
I killed all the vehicles, so I got all 15.
Woo.
So with the Necrons, he had a custom dynasty. The first trait was that they can all make a 6-inch move before the game starts.
Yep.
And
So
the second one is that everything is OBSEC in his list.
that is
So all the
so
arcs,
common now. Yeah.
yes,
That's a
all
very,
the arcs
very
are OBSEC.
yeah. Eternal
You can get a
Conquerors and something else. Yeah.
yes,
Very common.
expansionists.
That's it.
Yes,
That's the and that 6-inch pregame move, man, that is like pretty money, especially for your whole army. That's a lot of
yes,
effectively free board control, and it's for the whole army. It's not like
yes.
the Cerberus Raiders where it's one unit. It's everything. It's very
It's
cool.
everything.
Yeah.
So in that game, there's a bunch of terrain still on the table. I deployed out of line of sight as best I could. Uh, and then out of range, I mean, his doomsday cannons have like 72-inch range, so nobody's getting out of the way of those. But all the other secondary shots are like 24 inches. So I I asked him how far he could move, and then I added that to the range of most of his guns. And so if I could not deploy out of line of sight, I deployed 1 inch farther than he could move and shoot me, with
So
everything except for the 3 doomsday cannons.
so if there are any new players listening, that's called a threat range. So
Yes,
you know that in one turn, if it can only move 10 inches and has a 24-inch gun, then its threat range is 34 inches, and if you stay outside of that, then you are effectively untargetable by those 24-inch guns. And
right. And most
obviously,
of
if
his
you're
guns
just
were that.
out of
Yeah,
line of sight, then that's even
you're
better.
safe.
You're definitely untargetable. But yeah, threat range. So
So on turn one, um, I I zoomed up the fast moving kill teams to jump on objectives and raise banners. I raised 3 of the banners on turn one, and then put another unit, fast moving unit, in the center of the board where there were 2 L's situated so that if you were in the center, you really couldn't be seen. Um, there were openings in the L's, so you could be seen in these 2 corners that were opposite to each other, but you were pretty protected if you were in the center. And that gave me the Oath of Moment. And then I think I shot with all the dreadnoughts and killed 2 Doomsday Arcs. Now these, I mean, there's 3 Doomsdays and 3 Ghost Arcs, and these models are huge,
yeah,
right?
they're enormous.
They're really long. They're one of the longest vehicles in the
Yeah.
game that's not a flyer, and so it's hard to hide all of them. the Tesseract Arcs, which actually do more damage, they're smaller. They're like almost half the size. So I couldn't see any of those. But there was a couple Doomsday Arcs I could see. And the so what all of those arcs, all 9 of those arcs have is permanent transhuman. They're only toughness 6, but you can never wound them on anything on a 1, 2, or 3. You can only wound them on 4 or higher, no matter what you shoot at them. So if I'm shooting the plasma from the Redemptor, which is strength 9, I'm still only wounding on 4s. But the Contemptors, on the other hand, Contemptors who have 16 shots, they're all strength 6. They're wounding them on 4s anyway.
Yeah, they don't care.
And
the mortal wounds
they don't care.
Also don't care.
Right, exactly.
Hey,
and
quick aside, just real quick. Do you re-roll all wounds that aren't 6s? Because that's the way, like, let's say you pop Tome of Ectoclades and you say Ghost Arcs or, the Tesseract Arcs, and you're like, I want to just kill them. Do you roll, like, when all your wounds are out, and let's say you have, 10 wounds, and you're like, okay, well, I only got 3 mortal wounds. Do you just grab all your other ones that already wounded and try for more 6s, or do you just let them sit? Because
I'm gonna let them sit.
Okay.
Because these vehicles I only wound on 4s anyway, so I want to get and I can make them -1 in Devastator Doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
And he can, with quantum shielding, which is a ability all of the Necron vehicles have, he can make the invulnerable save a 4+ with a stratagem. So even though his armor is 3+, I'm -1 to wound. He's got a 4+ invulnerable, so I need as many rolls. I need as many wounds as possible to try to get through the 4+, because each one is two points of damage.
Okay.
What I would do when I re-roll everything like that, like what you're saying, is if it's a unit that is a 3+ invulnerable or a 2+ invulnerable, something that is really hard for the saves to get through, that I really need to try to mortal wound out.
What is
so
that?
If I was shooting,
is it an Eldari Archon that can have that? It has a 2+ invul, and then it fails one, and it never has an invul again, or something. Is it an Archon? Okay.
Correct. The Archon, and in my Dark Eldar game, there were was there 2 of those?
Ugh.
There was 1 for sure. There might have been 2.
Gross.
There was 1 for sure. And then against Custodian's Guard that have all storm shields, if the Contemptors are shooting at them, I probably do that.
Yeah,
because
that's fair.
They all have they have a 1-up save anyway. So
yeah,
you got to try to get the mortal wounds to get them in that situation.
That's a Ivar approved tip for sure, right there.
Mm-hmm. So 2 Doomsday Arcs were sitting out. I actually rolled pretty well with the Contemptors and killed, I think 1 Redemptor joined in and killed 2 of the Doomsday Arcs. I was rolling really well in that situation, and Michael didn't roll so well that first turn. And then on the second turn, he moved up and took what shots he can into my army and killed models from units, but I don't think he killed any units. Then on my turn 2, I jumped the fast movers forward again. The ones that raised the 3 banners midfield, all 3 of them jumped forward to jump onto his 3 objectives that are on his side of the midfield and in his center. And then they were replaced by another fast mover in the center, and then 2 foot troops had come up to the sides by then and hunkered down on those objectives. So I had OBSEC on all 6 objectives. Now, the problem with the arcing lot, while everything is objective secured, Ghost Arc is 145 points, and it's 1 objective secured model. So I would put a 5-man unit, kill team on it, and I'm objective secured, so we cancel each other out. And then it comes to the number of models. I've got 5, you got 1. It's my objective. Yep. And so I just started jumping on to the vehicles and started attacking them in close combat. While I couldn't kill I could do a couple wounds, but I couldn't do enough to kill them or anything, but that didn't matter. The vehicles don't fight very well in combat, so they're stuck there, and they can't, while they could shoot me in combat on their shooting phase at -1 to hit, the Doomsday Cannon couldn't fire because it's blast. Only the little Tesla, the little Gauss weapons on the side could. But that meant that all of his guns couldn't shoot the dreadnoughts because they
Right.
can either shoot the units that are close combat with them, or they fall back and don't shoot anybody.
Yeah.
So he was kind of, some of them would do that. They would fall back and not shoot anybody, and some of them would just shoot me in combat, but not enough to kill me. Um, the bikes have 3 wounds each. It's a lot of wounds to chew through, and
And your Vanguard vet has that Melta Bomb stratagem too.
yes, yeah.
2d3
And so
mortal wounds. Not bad.
that was going on. I just kind of took all the objectives away from the Necrons, and this continued for the rest of the game. Once I'm in combat with him, there was kind of nowhere to go, and I, I'm sorry, but I didn't even realize what was going on until turn 4 came around. But the Necron scored 0 primary the entire game. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, wow. I'm actually looking at his list right now, and I'll stick it up on guys little. I don't see any. I mean, there's some immortals in here.
There were 5 immortals holding his center back objective, but on
Yeah.
turn 2, I activated the White Guards doctrine on my farthest forward kill team, and they zoomed up and advanced
Huh.
and charged and assaulted them. They didn't kill him on the first go. I was kind of surprised by that, but
This is a
we
very
stuck around, and then yeah, I held that objective.
this is a very different list than I've seen for sure. So, um, yeah, they brought us.
Michael's at the he's at the Lone Star Open right now playing,
Cool.
and he brought Necrons, but he did not bring this list. He's bringing triple Satan, the Lone Star
Oh,
Open.
gross.
Uh, he
Rude.
we sat and talked Necrons. Our game kind of ended a little quick, and we sat and talked Necrons for an hour because I had bought a lot of Indominus boxes at the start of 9th. So when you buy a lot of Indominus boxes, that means you got a lot of Necrons.
Yep.
And so I just happen to have a lot of Necrons. Um, all the stuff that's like in the Indominus boxes. So we sat and talked that for a while, and I kind of he ended up deep striking his Ophidian destroyers, the 6 of them, and they came down in my backfield and rolled 2 9-inch charges. One made it in, one didn't, and they kind of bounced off a dread, but they're not designed to go and kill Contemptor dreadnoughts anyway. Um, but I kind of like them. I said to him, I said, I think if you started with the Ophidians on the table, they could have easily been hidden because there's enough terrain. And then when I made that play to jump onto his backfield objectives, then the Ophidians could have counter assaulted, and their stat profile is perfect for attacking Marines. So my Vanguard and my bikes would have been in big trouble, and he probably could have kicked me off his home field objectives instead
Yeah.
of putting them in deep strike to try to go fight dreadnoughts on my home field objective, which is not what they want to do. They don't want to fight the dreadnoughts. There's the Scorpec destroyers want to go fight dreadnoughts. They that one could be like strength 8 and they do 3 damage.
Yeah.
But the Ophidians are more designed to kill Marines. I
Yeah.
think
I I
yeah, I would have yeah.
I just pulled up their data sheet on the stream here. It says, yeah, I mean they have a 2 or a 3 wound or 3 damage profile. So they could be even murdering your bikes. They have 3 attacks base. They've got pretty good defenses against melee. Yeah. And then if they use the hyperphase reap blade, which is the damage 3 profile, an unmodified hit roll of 6 actually explodes into another hit. So yeah, they could go, and it's a -4 AP, so you're dropping kill teams with no invuls down to no save at all. So yeah,
Yes.
they are brutal for murdering. Sure.
They're -1 to hit in close combat natively, so it's harder to
Yeah,
strike at them.
very
It's
cool.
easier to shoot them, but it's harder to strike to close combat them.
So You crushed some Necrons. Who was next?
Next is Admech.
Okay,
This
here we
game was
go.
streamed. This game was streamed on the Canhammer Twitch channel. I played Tanner, um, who's a very good Admech player. We were playing sweep and clear, so that's going to be 5 objectives, one in the center and one basically in the center of each one of the 4 table quarters. And when you deploy in a table quarter, but you're kind of in that box in a table quarter. It's not the whole
Oh,
long side. And
right.
you're like 9 inches away from the center. So it creates like that little circle of
Yeah,
18 inches of
right.
death in the center.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And you can
yeah,
can deploy right up on the middle, basically, like almost on it.
right.
Yeah. So you
Yes.
can have each army just like only 9 inches away from each other when the game starts, or 18
Yes.
inches. Anyway, very close.
Yes. Very close. He's running, I think it was 60. He had 2 20-man Ranger squads. He had a 20-man Vanguard squad, all the characters that go with it. Um, he had two units of 2 chicken walkers with the las cannons, and he had 4 flyers. He had 2 of the bombers, and I don't remember exactly what they're called, but they're bombers. I know they bomb. Then he had 2 other types of flyers that have las cannons on them. These are the D3+3 las cannons.
Yeah.
They all have lots of
Assault
stubber
2,
shots. Yeah, yeah,
assault, and then there's a stratagem so that they can advance 6 and ignore the to hit penalty from. Yeah. Chicken. The laser chickens are very good. um.
yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's their flyers are all called archaeopters, but I don't remember which one's which.
That was important because since he took 2 and 2, if I pop the Tome of Ectoclades, it won't work on all 4
Right.
because he has technically 2 flyers are from one data sheet and the other 2 flyers are from another data sheet. Those flyers, as we're deploying, I thought these flyers have to die. They have to be my primary targets because I cannot let them zoom around because they can get behind terrain quite easily with their gigantic movements. And they're shooting those super powerful las cannons into my dreadnoughts. And they also have just like a ton of strength 4 -1 shots with the Admech stubbers.
Yeah. The Cognis heavy stubbers on the bombers. There are 4 of them.
Right,
Um.
right.
Assault 4 with basically a bolter or profile. And then there's the
And yeah,
Stratoraptor, which has the last can. They're basically a flying laser chicken.
exactly.
Yeah. With
-1 damage because they
yeah,
all had chaff launchers to make them -1 damage.
and
They're
they're
all
also
toughness 7,
and they're all
a
-1 to
6.
hit for
Yes.
Yep.
Uh,
Gross.
Here's the worst part is I couldn't assault them with anything because while I have 10 Vanguard vets, all of my Vanguard vets are with bikers to start with. So when their Vanguard vets are with the bikers in their kill team, they lose the fly keyword. And the only thing you could assault aircraft with is something with the fly keyword. So I couldn't assault them either. So uh, probably their biggest threat to me would be to move block me. The 4 of them could come up and create an L in front of my lines that would prevent me from moving out of my deployment zone. I could not assault any of them.
Oh no. So you had to shoot them right
I
away.
would have to shoot them, and if they're right in front of me, there is an Admech stratagem which allows them, if they die, to auto explode and deal mortal wounds to everybody.
Nice.
There's
So
all sorts of problems with these flyers.
they have Vengeance of the Machine Spirit, basically.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
So there's all
Except
sorts
they
of
don't
problems
have
with
a
these
machine
flyers.
spirit. That's crazy. Crazy. Yeah. So the shaft launcher not only gives them the smokescreen keyword, it also makes it so that they are -1 damage, like you said. So even if they come out of hover, or if they come out of supersonic into hover, where they would lose their -1 to hit, they could smokescreen instead for 1 CP.
So here's another thing. These flyers are toughness 7. there is no other flyer out of except for Forge World stuff is toughness 7 in the game except a Storm Raven, a
The
Marine
Corvus,
big flyer.
the Corvus Blackstar
Oh, that's
is
Corvus Blackstar.
actually toughness 7. Yeah.
Well, there's two of them then,
Yeah.
because all the other planes are toughness 6.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason for toughness 6 is that the Contemptor's twin Volkite is strength 6. So I would wound them on 4s normally, but being toughness 7, I only wound them on 5s. And so that would be even harder because that's your volume of fire. And it takes the 2 damage from the Volkite down to 1 damage. It was going to be a pain, these flyers. So in this particular game, oh, and the bombers do mortal wounds. They do a lot
Yeah.
of mortal wounds over whatever they fly
The
over, and
bombers
they
are
could,
crazy. Yeah,
yeah,
they're
they
really
could
good.
bank twice, so you really can't block them. So I had decided this was the third game of the day. I had decided, like after I put down my third unit, that I have to go first. Like I have no chance. These planes are just going to lock me into this table quarter. I've got no chance. It was a heavy terrain board. Lots of ruins. There was impassable terrain that also blocked, that was taller than 5 inches, so it blocked line of sight. And I lost the fly keyword, so it's hard for me to jump over stuff. But those planes were the most mobile things on the board, and all the foot guys were going to get locked into place really quick. So I said, I just need to go first. So I ended up deploying a lot of stuff on the line. I put a fast mover right on the line, 18 inches from his deployment zone. Now, one benefit of having so many, or one benefit for me of the Admech player having so many units to deploy was that his deployment zone was getting really crowded. And he put 2 planes toward the back of his deployment zone, and he put 2 planes towards the front of his deployment zone. I think the idea for the 2 planes towards the front of his deployment zone was that if I went first, I could not move, I could not assault the planes. And so the planes then kind of protected his Skitarii from getting assaulted. Because since these deployment zones are only 18 inches apart, if you're really far forward, normally the person who doesn't want to get assaulted will deploy farther back. So there's no way they can get assaulted. But he's got so many models that he's just running out of room, right? Somebody's got to come forward. So that's what, and I think he used 2 of the planes, the bomber ones, I think, were up forward, kind of acting as a screen. So I couldn't assault because I can't assault them. So because I don't have the fly keyword, so I couldn't assault the Skitarii. I needed to go first, and probably the only reason I won the game was because I did go first. And I popped the Tome of Ectoclades and I picked the flyers. And
The
I just
bombers
started.
or the other ones? The ones that were closest, I assume.
Probably.
The one with
Probably.
the most guns that could actually hit it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because even though I was even shooting shotguns at them.
Oh yeah,
You
I
know,
believe it. You're like, no, it's gotta die.
everything. We're all re-rolling to wound. Everything shooting.
Yeah.
So I moved the fast mover who was up far forward. I put white scars on it, and I moved and advanced it right up into right in front of his flyers that were, the lines. And then I shot the whole army at the flyers. I killed one flyer, and that was the one that was closest to me. It, then I um, brought 2 other flyers down to 1 wound each. But the flyer that I killed, it was removed, left this gigantic hole up front,
That you can
his
move through.
Skitarii.
Oh, I see.
Not only could I move through it, but when I assaulted, that it was a unit of Vanguard who were right there. Assaulted, and I put the 5+ feel no pain on this unit, on my fast mover who was forward. So he didn't have any buffs up on the unit yet. He took all defensive buffs to start the game because he knew you don't decide those until you know you're going second. So if he was going to shoot me, he was going to be all strength 3, AP 0. In Overwatch,
Okay.
I should say,
Yeah.
because usually a good strategy for the Admech is to just shoot you in Overwatch if you're going to charge. But he didn't have any of those offensive shooting buffs up yet. I had a 5+ feel no pain, so he I think he only started the game with 5 CP, so he was like, I'm not even going to bother Overwatch. So I assaulted into the Vanguard, and I was able to wrap a unit, wrap a guy after the fight. Now, what that means is I put, especially with the bike bases, because they're so long, I was able to surround one of the Vanguard after consolidations, and so he could not fall back.
Right.
He
You have
could
him
he could
completely wrapped around. Yeah.
I'm completely wrapped around. So, what this did was that on his turn, two things happened.
Yeah.
The
You've
flyers that only had one wound left each, they did not have enough movement to get far enough forward. One of them
yeah.
was a bomber, and the bomber needs to fly over me to activate the mortal wounds, and he couldn't move far enough. He could only move like 22 inches, and he was farther than that, so he couldn't even get there to do the mortal wounds, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
And the second thing was the Admech have a once per game ability where they could take a unit on the board and teleport it somewhere else. This is usually used by the Admech to send fully buffed
Oh.
Rangers
So was he
into your
playing?
backfield.
He was playing Lucius then, and it was the
Yeah,
solar
yeah,
something, the solar
yeah.
transcendence or something like that. Yeah.
There's a couple solar things that they got.
Yeah. That's
Yes.
their whole shtick. That's all. That's all. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
The old timers call it the Veil because the Necrons had it
Yeah,
first, and it was the Veil of Darkness.
Veil of Darkness, and they've got it again now. But so
The Admech have the Veil of Darkness now.
and,
They all
and
have
so
it.
and so then your melee, your unit that's in melee is now wrapping this Admech unit that can't fall back. So now it's locked in close combat, which means now it's untargetable by ranged weapons as well, right?
Correct.
So
Correct. Well,
you have effectively made it immune to all of that other Vanguard shooting that is on the board because you're untargetable.
and I'm in his deployment zone with this unit. Now this is untenable because on the next turn, we would fight on his turn, and I'm a much superior fighter in close combat. And then he knows that I have a CP to fall back and charge again, which would allow me to go even farther into his lines and now start assaulting characters who give all
Yeah,
the buffs out, who are
man,
not
that
very
is
good fighters or
so
survivors.
rad. That is so rad.
Oh, but there's a way out of it for the Admech. He did it. He had to use that once per game teleport ability on the unit that was wrapped.
And there were how many Vanguard left? Like 4, 5, maybe?
Oh, I think there might have been like 12.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you didn't
So
do
it's
as
not
much.
enough. No, I
Right.
didn't. I actually didn't. It's still, well, that's why I was able to wrap because he couldn't remove enough guys
Right.
to get out of the wrap. Uh, but it was enough. I killed enough of them that it wasn't worth the effort to put all of the shooting buffs on this unit and then teleport it into the back of my lines to shoot me from behind
Right.
because he had lost enough of them that it wasn't going to do enough damage. You really want that on a 20-man ranger squad.
Yeah,
You don't
absolutely.
necessarily want to do it on vanguards, and especially when they get down to 12, they're not going to be as effective.
Yeah, yeah, as a
But he needed to use this teleport to get out of the fight that would have decimated him. So I
otherwise, yeah.
got rid of the once per game teleport.
If he
And
doesn't, yeah, if he doesn't burn that solar whatever flare thing to get his units out of combat, he can't shoot at your unit and remove a threat that's in his deployment zone on turn 2, you said.
correct.
Like that's
Correct.
yeah, he has to. He needs to like you out of that deployment zone. So that's great. That's a huge threat off of the table.
It was monstrous. So he did that, and then the rest of his army shoots the 5 fast movers and kills them. Feel no pain or not, they
Yeah.
die.
Right.
And then he does what he can with his remaining flyers because they're the only ones who can see me right now. On my turn, I think I kill at least 2 of the flyers, maybe all 3, and then they're done. And I just wait. I'm on 3 objectives. He's on 2 objectives. I'm on 3 objectives.
So
And
Chuck
yeah,
Norris, you wait.
well, there's a wall. There's almost like a solid wall of line of sight blocking ruins in the middle of the board. I'm right behind it, 1 inch behind it, so I can't be seen. He can't get a 20-man unit across it because can't come within an inch of me.
Yeah,
He
they'll
could get them all across if he assaulted me, but he doesn't want anything to do with that.
nope.
So he's stuck on 2 objectives on his side of the board, and I'm on 3 objectives.
And you
I've
have
removed
oath.
his teleport ability. I have Oath.
Yeah.
I have Stranglehold, which means if I control 3 objectives, I get 3 points every
Right.
turn. I
So
have Direct
effect
Assault, so
yeah.
if I control 3 objectives, I get 3 points every turn.
So
And
so at that
scores just went through the roof.
yeah, at that point it is your game to lose.
Right, he
Because he
says
can't
on turn 2 that I've lost this game. All you have, Tanner tells me at the end of turn 2, I've lost this game. The only thing that I could do to win is if you play stupid.
yeah. If you
Because
come
I will
out and
kill
fight.
anything that comes out.
Right.
I will kill anything that comes out.
But I'm not going
You
in.
will kill anything that I send over.
Yep.
Right? So we're stuck. And this is the first time I have ever played against the new Admech.
Yeah.
So I tell him, I want to see what you can really do. Please, let's not just end the game now. And so I send over a couple units, and I think I'm being clever. I'm using a ruin to leapfrog. I tie up into assault another squad, but I don't get to wrap them because I killed a little too many. One of them is a 5+ feel no pain. I'm kind of being blocked by a wall partially,
Mm,
and uh, he ends up just killing all of them.
yeah.
Like,
I
and I'm like, so this is what all the buffs do on Admech. I
yeah,
understand now.
I have never
I'm
had
never,
the
yeah.
yeah, I have not had the honor of being shot off the board by the new Admech yet, but like from even some very like experienced players that I know who are very like easygoing, don't get frustrated easily. They're like, man, it is frustrating because they shoot they're the best shooting army in the game right now, and they're so hard to move. They're so defensive. It's not like the Druhkai menace where everybody knew, okay, if you would at least get them out of their radars, their raiders, they just collapse, right? You just need to pop them and get them out of there, and it's, things are actually winnable. It's like, you got lucky in that the middle of the board was effectively just line of sight blocking terrain. Um, that won the game for you, but it's like, oh man, they are just Admech has none of that. Like, they're not in transports. They're not like, yeah, their base defensive stats are pretty bad, but when you stack on, they've got a 2-up against 1 damage or a 3-up against 1 damage weapon, 2-up if they're in cover. They can make their cover save better, so now they're actually at a 1-up. Then you can make them ignore AP 1 and 2. You can give them transhuman. And unlike Space Marines who have to spend CP to give transhuman, they just get it. And then unlike Grey Knights where, we have a really great psychic power for -1 to be wounded, that's a psychic power. It can be denied. I can be out of range with it. That unit can be dead. Like, I can fail the test. I can spend a CP, reroll, and still fail the test. Like, it's possible to fail. And they're just like, nope, that happens now. You get this, you get this, you get this, or you get all this, you get all of this. Good luck, like, moving that unit. It's nuts if you think about it.
Are too many buffs that can be applied offensively and defensively. Too many buffs can be applied to an 8-point model and a unit of 28-point models. Now, this is a little more, but it's similar to what cultists were at the start of 8th edition, where chaos cultists in units of 30 could get all sorts of buffs put on them once, like a 5+ invulnerable, a 5+ feel no pain, +1 to wound with veterans of the Long War. They could be -1 to hit because they were also Alpha Legion, and they could reroll all their hits when they shot. And so you can put too many stacking buffs on a giant unit of cheap
Yeah.
models, then they become more powerful than elite units.
Yeah.
Even with the same buffs, because if I could do all the same things you're talking about, if I could do all of that to a 5-man Custodes unit, the 5-man Custodes unit couldn't do enough damage
Or I mean,
in their shooting. They just don't have enough shots.
yeah, I mean, imagine if you could do all that to a 5-man or a 10-man uh uh intercessor squad, right? You
No, it'd be
already
a 20-man. It'd be a
right.
20-man intercessor
Sorry,
squad.
20-man. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then that's not even including like I'm a new player. These things have to be broken down for me. I think I'm a pretty smart guy, but like this stuff has to be broken down for me a lot of the time. But when I saw that Radiant Carbine 1 CP strat to just wound automatically on 4s, I'm like,
Mhm.
damn, that's insane. And then you can already give a unit like reroll all hits. I think it's reroll all hits. It might only be once, but still, that means you're only not wounding on one roll of 2s and 3s. And as you know, the mathematics of this game, durability, is because of all those gating rolls. You have to roll to hit, and then you have to roll to wound, and then you get a save usually, right? And then you can even get a feel no pain. And that's why adding those gated rolls on the end, like a feel no pain, is worth so much because it's another gating roll, right? So if you
Mhm.
just if you take out all of those gating rolls, except in this instance, it would, you still get a save and a feel no pain. But if you take out another gating roll, that wildly swings the math in your favor, and then it completely screws over, like, Dark Angel's entire thing is that their units are transhuman all the time. So if you just
Mhm.
take that away, now it's like, well, this feels bad. It's like I have an army that is budgeted and built around the fact that they can do this thing, and then this other army can just take that away. And that, and I don't play Dark Angels, but like I would think that that would feel very bad. um,
Or
it's kind of like,
any high toughness. Yeah.
yeah, it's
You're paying a
yeah,
lot. You're paying a
exactly.
premium for your high toughness.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna automatically wound Plague Burst crawlers, which are toughness 8. Like, they,
It doesn't work
oh,
on vehicles, but yeah,
okay. Well, so it's
that's what last chickens are
right.
for.
So it is infantry only then, which is still
Infantry only.
90% of 95%
Mhm.
of most lists right now. But so at
Most things.
least
I
they
think
can't.
it's worse than that. I think it's non-vehicles. So
Oh wow.
it's not
So
infantry. It might
it's
just be non-vehicles. So you can still pick on bikes and monsters.
and monsters. Yeah, yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So I'm glad we discussed the Admech menace because wow, like that is just. I mean,
I had the best mission for me on the
yeah.
best possible table,
You went
and
first.
I went first.
Yeah.
I don't win that game if I go second.
I mean,
No, because those flyers would do way too much damage.
well, if any one of those things changed, and like, good on you for that like awesome play. But if any of those variables change, if you went second, you probably lose. If that line of sight blocking terrain wasn't right in the middle, you would lose. If if you hadn't got that sweet wrap off and made him burn his only mobility option, really, other than the flyers, you wouldn't have been in a stalemate that you were winning. You would have been in you would have had to swing back around and go take out 20 Skitarii Rangers with all those wicked buffs on it, right? So, like, if any of those things had gone differently, that would have been either a tighter game or you would have lost. And if all of them went bad for you, yeah, I don't. I mean, that is just such a strong codex right now with crazy builds and just so much efficient stacking. And I remember at the beginning of ninth when like people were just harping on Marines for how efficient they were, and it's like, wow, the new Admech codec is way crazier. And even
Yep.
salamanders, which were legit busted and like deserved all the nerfs that they got, I think they only got up to like a 56 or 58% win rate. They're still less oppressive than post nerf Druhkai are, at the tournament level anyway. It's
I
crazy.
think there's um, there's some lists in the Lone Star Open which seem to be specifically designed to kill all of those AdMech Skitarii Rangers, and
Yeah.
especially large blobs of them.
Mhm.
But they are very, very specialized.
And if you get
There's
too
an Eldar one in
specialized,
particular.
yeah, and if you
That's
get
true. You
too
got to be careful with
specialized,
that.
now, yeah, now you're now you can get rolled up by an Ultramarines player or whatever, right? Just because you didn't, or whatever else, Deathguard, Necrons, it doesn't matter. Anything else because you're too specialized to just kill. It's like that Richard Siegler list from, I think it was the Onslaught. Was it the Onslaught cheats? No, it was Atlantic City, and he brought Tau
Tau.
with an anti-Druhkai list, and then he fought 4 Druhkai players in a row. Like, you know, because Druhkai was so prevalent, he got very lucky with his matchups, and he came in 4th, I think, with Tau, but he brought a, like, anti-Druhkai list, and it's Richard Siegler, so, you know, like, yeah, that guy could probably pilot, like, little pieces of trash and still win. Anyway, yeah, so Admech, that's amazing. That's a great story. Things like worked out real well. Fascinating, actually. So then you played, I believe it was Druhkai, right? Which is one of the streamed matches, and there's a link in the description down below for that. So how'd the Druhkai matchup go?
Druhkai matchup. I remember round 2. On turn 2, the TO came over to see how we were doing, and I said, "Well, I've lost this game." I said it was fun. I remember that morning I got up like at 4 in the morning. This is in the wash. It's out by you.
Yeah.
I don't need to tell you. Being a high school, I'm a science teacher. I'm a geologist by trade. Uh, Never been to the Cascades before, so I got up at 4 in the morning to go to Mount Baker, the volcano that's near Mount Vernon, where this was being played, and it was just absolutely beautiful. I didn't set the alarm or anything. I just said to myself, if I wake up, and I'm still on Chicago time, so 4 in
Right.
the morning is really 6 a.m. out here, so it's not
Yep.
as early as you think, for at least for me at the time. So go back, and round 4 was the first game that morning, like at 10. I'm not too tired. I'm fine. We're playing on another stream table. This one with a lot of line of sight blocking terrain, but it's all ruins and it looked like a crashed spaceship. We're uh, playing battle lines, so it's a hammer and anvil deployment, and we're all pretty uh, deployed pretty good out of line of sight, both of us. And then he's got a fairly standard Chukari list. There's 5 raiders. There's 10 hellions who are out in the open. There's some witches. There's some incubi. He's got 2 units of Trueborn, which is an anti-marine call, because then he
Yeah.
gets 2 units with dark lances and double blasters that hit on 2s all the time.
And they
I like that. I
usually
think that's a real good choice.
and they usually leave them in raiders too, so that
Yes.
the raider has a dark lance, and then there's a dark lance in the unit inside, and then there's the 2 blasters in the unit inside, which is effectively 2 very short range dark lances. Yeah, it's
All
good.
hit on 2s.
All hit on 2s, except the raider. But yeah,
So and then there's 1 succubus. There's an archon. There's Drazar.
Razar, man,
I
holy
don't think there was
crap!
another archon. I guess it was just no. There was a second archon. There was a second archon because he came out at the end of the game. The first archon had the had the Jin blade, so he was a combat monster. The second one just had a normal husk blade, but I couldn't get through his 2+ invulnerable. The first one I did. The second one I didn't. Okay, I remember that. There was 2 for sure. We start, and I deployed the contemptors, who are the best anti-Drukhari thing I have, one of the best, with the 45-inch range guns. I deploy them out of line of sight, but where they could step out if I went first and get at least a shot on something each,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is what happened. I stepped out, and one of them could see a single raider, some Trueborn in it, and I shot it. I was away from all the buffs. The buffs were in the center. The dreadnought buffs were kind of balled up in the center, and this guy was on the far left for me. So he was on the bottom part if you're watching from the stream. So he was far away. He shot and couldn't kill the raider. He left it with
So
2 wounds,
so you went
which
first?
means yeah.
Okay, sorry,
But I
I
mean, I
think I
could
missed
only
that part.
shoot a raider. I went first, and all I could shoot was a raider with a contemptor. I got it down to 2 wounds. which means it's only moving 6 inches. And then the second Contemptor could see the Hellions, and he was within range of the buffs, and so he picked up all the Hellions.
Yeah,
So
I
they have
believe
like
it.
a 6+ save. They're 2 wounds each.
Yeah.
Um, those are the only 2 units I could see. So I
The
killed one
Hellions
and
have
not the
a
other.
that sweet what a flyby mortal wound strat though. That's
Yes.
on the charge, I think.
They're like 2 damage in close combat
Yeah,
also, and
which
so
means which is
yeah,
perfect for murdering Marines. So
yes,
anyway,
exactly.
yeah,
Then I jumped up on. Oh, he had a unit of mandrakes that were deployed forward. So on this had
what the hell is a Mandrake? I don't think I've
a
ever seen
mandrake
one.
is a they are an elite choice in the Dark Eldar Codex. They forward deploy, so they're like infiltrators or like incursors. They forward deploy, and they have a 2-shot assault two. They have a assault 2 gun, which is strength 4 -1 damage, and I think it does mortal wounds on 6s to wound.
It does,
They have
yeah.
a
I
5
pulled
plus.
up.
They have a 5+ invulnerable with 1 wound, 3 three toughness. They're kind of like the scouts for Dark Eldar, but they do a little bit more damage than you might think.
Okay, yeah, they're I I have got the data sheet up right now. But, all right, interesting. Okay, yeah, I think are these the ones with the like eye lasers or whatever? That's what the Bale Blast is. Anyway, yeah, I think I have
I think
actually
so. I
fought
think
against these. I just didn't remember what they were called. They're there forward de- deploying. Unit choice. I got it. All right. Sorry. Let's get back
Oh,
to.
on this game, my secondaries, I took Suffer not the alien, so I
Good.
get a kill point for every unit I kill, which Dark Eldar bring a lot of units.
They do.
He kind
Good
of laughed.
choice.
He kind of laughed when I explained because he wasn't sure what that was. This is his first time playing against Deathwatch. He kind of laughed and said, "So I guess you're going to try to table me." And I said, "Well, I'm just going to kill a lot of your units because they are kind of super thin. They're designed to kill something and then
Right.
die."
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he ran a lot of MEU like Witch and Incubi, I assume, which is pretty standard.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
like
Yes.
5 wounds, toughness 3. If you can catch
Yes.
him out in the open, that's an easy 1 point. That's a really easy one
Exactly.
point. Yeah.
This was only 4 objectives, so I took Stranglehold as another one. I was getting rather cocky and confident in my OBSEC and ability to hold 3 objectives, so I took Stranglehold and I took Raise the Banners High. I took Raise the Banners High. There were only 4 objectives. I don't know what else I could have taken, really. I ended up only getting a 5 on Raise the Banners because he did a great job of taking down one of my banners on turn 2, and then I could never raise a banner on another one. I think on the very last turn of the game, I did. The home field banner was the only one I kept the entire time, so I only got 5 points on Raise the Banners. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
I ended, I
we're
ended up with a 15 on stuff for the alien because he had like 20 units or something. So
yeah.
you don't need to table him to get that. You just need to kill
For
stuff.
for shadow operations, I mean, I guess you could have taken retrieve Octarius data, but I've found that one. So the new scramblers, I've like
Yeah.
I get that one all the time on my Grey Knights. I don't get that at all. I feel like when I play Deathwatch. I have I
Well,
have
I
I
don't
need
have.
things
You're
to be
right. You're
doing
right.
that. Yeah, like I need
Yes,
those units to be doing things all the time. It might be because
exactly.
like I don't have any spare units to be doing actions really. Where
Yes.
if I rolled with your style of list with fewer dreads and more OBSEC units, more troops, I could maybe have units to actually do that. But I think raise the banners is a better choice personally. But anyway,
Raise the Banners. Raise the Banners lets me fight. And the way it turned out, you're right. I retrieve Octarius data. I can get that in my 2 quarters with my foot troops, who usually don't do that much if I'm doing okay during the game. But only the fast movers are going to be able to reach the far corners. And in this particular game, all the fast movers died by the end, and they were fighting turn 2 on.
yeah,
Like all of them were
yeah,
fighting constantly
I
all the
believe
time.
it. Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
That's
So
a
there would have been never an opportunity for them to do it.
right.
So I jumped up on turn one. A raider got knocked down to 2 wounds. I killed the Hellions, which was very important. Then I raised 2 banners. I thought I was sitting pretty, and then assaulted the Mandrakes with a fast moving squad. I think it was 4 bikes. It might have been 4 bikes and a Vanguard vet. And I only killed, I think I killed 4 of the 5 Mandrakes, and he made his leadership check. So there was 1 Mandrake left behind, but I was OBSEC and he wasn't. Then on
Yeah.
his turn, he brought up where I'm fighting the Mandrake. He got out an Incubi squad, and he got out the Super Succubus, who I think had like might have had
Uh,
the Triptych
the
Witch. It could,
triptych whip. Yeah, that thing is
yeah,
nuts.
it does a ton of damage, and this thing had like 14 attacks, and and he got out the Incubi, so the Succubus and the Incubi charged in for that fight. Down on the other side, um, the Raider that was down to 2 wounds could only move 6 inches. So that was hilarious because he couldn't move far enough to get his blasters in range of anything because they're only 18 inches.
Right.
But his Darklands could, so it's like kind of just going really slow. Actually, if he had gotten out, he could move faster. But if I had blown it up, he could move faster. But being wounded like that, he moves slower. He disembarked the Archon with the Jin Blade and moved it up to advance and charge. The other fast mover unit, I think it was 4 storm shields and a bike that raised the banner on that objective on the bottom. Then he moved up Court of the Archon, but it couldn't get to where it needed to go, and he had both Trueborn units behind the Archon who was with the Jin Blade. So then in assault, he chose the Archon first to fight. The Archon killed 4 of the 5 Vanguard.
Yeah.
Killed all 4 of the Vanguard, so I just had the bike left.
Yeah.
And I spent 2 CP to interrupt. And with that interrupt, I attacked up above where the Incubi they failed the leadership check to make me fight last. The Incubi, the Succubus, and the Mandrake were with me. I spent 2 CP to interrupt so I could fight there. I used 1 CP to add 1 to the attack of all my models. So I had lots of attacks. And I ended up killing 4 of the 5 Incubi, and I killed the Mandrake. Then the Succubus finished me off by herself, pretty much by herself.
Yeah. They
The man,
kind of crazy. Hey, I mean, your list has pre-morphic resonance in it, which is fight first, obvious, which is effectively a free interrupt. Was that being used at all? That's a psychic power on
yeah, +1 to
the
hit.
librarian.
It must have been failed. I know the 5++. I think I failed both powers that turn.
Oh, really?
I think I just failed most of the games so far. I've passed like every power every time. So I think I just failed both powers that turn because the Jin Blade cut right through me. So either I put the feel no pain on that unit because I remember the librarian was farther down. It was too far away from where the Succubus was fighting. No powers could have gone on that unit up there. But the librarian was farther down where the Archon with the Jin Blade was fighting. So the best I could have done was probably give them a 5+ feel no pain, and I bet you I did that.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you I did give them a 5+ feel no pain, but what I must have failed everything because
Yeah.
I remember I only had 1 model left, and that model died to morale. So he took the banner off that objective, and I never got that banner back on again.
So how'd you squeak out that win then? Because it's sounding pretty bleak now. So this is the bottom of turn 2, right?
Yeah. So now I move his 3 raiders that have all his assault units, which were up by the Succubus. They're all kind of exposed now because they had to move up to get the stuff in range. And I advance the shotgun veterans who are good at this up towards those raiders. I advance shotguns down towards the Archon, who was on my objective. I put a bike unit down there also. There was another fast mover unit. There was another bike unit that went up to the top and jumped onto the objective where the single incubi was, and then the succubus was. And then I um, shot. My plan was to shoot with the dreadnoughts and kill. Oh, I think he also killed a contemptor of mine. Sorry, on his turn.
So kill the raiders.
Killed one of the contemptors.
Make the guys fall
Kill
out.
the raiders.
Blast
the
them
guys
with your
fall
shotguns.
out, and then exactly.
Yeah.
That
flamer profile on Druhkai is so awesome.
Yes. It is.
You're wounding on 3s, 1 damage, -1 AP, and tactical, so they're always on their invul usually anyway, or they're or you knock them off. Anyway, it's great against Druhkai.
I shot the 3 raiders. I killed 2 of the 3 raiders. He disembarked backwards so that none of my shotguns or other stuff could shoot any of the guys who got out.
Mm-hmm.
But disembarking backwards meant he had longer to go to get towards my main meat of my army.
Right.
Killing the raiders also exposed the succubus, and so the bike squad just shot her at point blank range. I think brought her down to 1 wound. I charged in and fought first there and just killed her. That was nice. I cast Smite. I remember the librarian cast Smite and did 3 wounds to the 2+ invulnerable save Archon.
Very cool.
And then the
and then he's only got 1 wound left after that.
He's got 2 wounds left. He's a flamer. I mean, he's a 5 wound guy. I did 3 mortal wounds. He's got 5.
Gotcha.
And so then I shot him. I shot him with the shotguns, and I did 11 wounds to him. And he has to roll them 1 at a time because the first is a 2+ save until you fail the first one, and then it becomes a 5+.
Yeah.
So he rolls them 1 at a time, 11 wounds. He makes the first 9.
Mm-hmm.
He fails the 10th. And then he fails the 11th. And so he just barely died.
Yeah.
He just barely died.
I had a game once where an Archon tanked an entire unit of, I think it was 8 or 9 Terminators that were left from my Grey Knights. And he just got so lucky with those 2 ups. He's just like, no problem, no problem, no problem, no problem, no problem. I think he actually tanked the whole unit without a problem. I was just like, what the hell? Like, what? The odds are not.
Thing that can happen.
Yeah, come on. That was a lot of attacks, but whatever.
So I killed the raiders, 2 of the raiders at least, but I couldn't kill the disembarked units because they disembarked backwards.
Right.
On his turn, the disembarking backwards meant that the only thing he could assault was the shotgun unit.
Right.
There's two bolter units behind, and there's 2 redemptors with them. So instead of assaulting everybody, he could only assault the shotguns. He assaulted the shotguns with witches and turned off the overwatch with a stratagem.
Mm-hmm.
Drazar was out. He came in and assaulted also.
Drazar is crazy, man.
Yeah.
Drazar's crazy.
There was another incubi squad. Another incubi squad assaulted the bikes that came up and had shot the succubus and killed her. An incubi squad assaulted them. So there were assaults happening everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like Druhkai.
I think he went first somewhere. I bet you his. And then I interrupted again on the incubi who were fighting the bikes, and I slaughtered all the incubi. The incubi kept failing the fight last, which is helpful.
Well, we are. I mean, Deathwatch is a very high leadership army.
Yes, the extra leadership because they're all veterans was very helpful in this situation.
Yeah, it's. I mean, and they're already an anti-Xenos faction, but like, you know, Grizzly
because
trophies and the incubi thing bounce off of us a lot of the time.
Exactly. What was really helping was I kept adding +1 to my attacks too, with that 1-point stratagem to give yourself +1 attack when you're fighting Xenos. Yeah. Also, I think it was around turn 3 that I actually remembered that our innate ability is to reroll ones to hit in close combat against Xenos.
Mm-hmm. And then
so all of this, yes, yeah. I was a much better close combat army than I think the Dark Eldar, the Druhkai was expecting.
Realized. Yeah, I mean, you could do, assuming you get premorphic resonance off. Now you are hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s naturally. Like you don't even need a captain nearby. You can spend 1 CP to have an additional attack for everybody. You still get your battlefield roll reroll, assuming you pick troops, which maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But like we get a lot of that naturally. Yeah, we're surprisingly good. We're no white scars, but we're surprisingly good. And then if you need to, you can always, Brotherhood of Veterans, 1 unit for +1 to wound as Blood Angels. Yeah, I mean that's really good too. So yeah, very good.
So on his turn, he slaughtered the shotguns. The bike unit got hit by somebody. Probably Drazar was over there too, and I just attacked the Incubi instead.
Yeah.
But what happened was because he had disembarked backwards, he could only reach them. And after he cleared them all out, he's standing in front of a Contemptor and 2 Redemptors with all that stuff. So
Yep.
one arm of the Contemptor went into the witches. Another arm went into some other witches. And the Incubi had died to the bike squad when I interrupted. Now Drazar is sitting there with himself, no protection, in front of the Redemptors who turned their plasma on him, and that was the end of him. So in one fell swoop, all of that stuff was dead.
delicious, like overkill.
That side of the table. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so you eked out a win. What was I see you got 69
to 38.
Oh wow, okay.
Was attacking. He only got 15 primary because I kept attacking the primary. I ended up having a 1 bike was alive down at the bottom, and he kept bouncing off of close combats, fall back and charge, and he ended up bouncing to his home objective. I think on turn 2 he bounced to the home objective, turn 2 or 2 and 30, and was fighting a Trueborn unit who was back there, and then killed them after a couple rounds. And a Raider came back there, but I'm Obsec. The Raider's not. I think the Raider missed with its Dark Lance and then assaulted me. I had 1 wound left, but then failed to kill me. So I'm still holding his objective with the 1 biker with 1 wound left. So it just kept turning off his primary like that, which was a big help.
So your MVP was that biker?
Biker actually cost him a lot of points in the end. That lone biker who made it all the way over, bouncing off with the fallback and charge.
So then
69-38 was the final score there.
All right. Very cool. Wow. So then let's go to Lucas and his Orks. This is the only game I've been able to actually watch. But it looks like he went with, Big Mech with custom force field, Evil Sons, Weird Boy, whole bunch of boys. Just like a ridiculous amount of boys. Some commandos, a Wah Banner, another Pain Boy, or a Pain Boy. And then he got a Spearhead with so many Smash-A-Guns. Like, he's got, I see 1, 2, 3, so he's got 9, no, he's got 10 Smash-A-Guns and 2 tractor cannons, so just the, I urge you all who are listening to go watch the VOD, and you can skip to when deployment's over, and you'll know because the entire top right corner of the table is just a wave of Ork boys.
You can't see the mat underneath. It's base to base throughout the entire deployment zone.
It looked crazy, like especially compared to your deployed army down in the bottom left corner, and it's like just a few units in comparison. It was like it was really funny. So how'd that go? Sorry.
Smash-A-Guns are a big threat. They hit on 4s, so it's not like normal Ork shooting. They all have D3 shots. But when there's 3, 6, 9, 10, there's like 14 of them, I want to say.
Yeah, there are.
So you just roll that many D3 shots, and they're really long range. They're like 48 inches.
Yeah. So there were 10 Smash-A-Guns and 2 tractor cannons, whatever. Yeah. So 12 of them total, but yeah.
The tractor cannons were -2 AP, and the Smash-A-Guns were -4. So when you shoot me with tractor cannons, I get excited because at least I have a save on the bikes. I would have like nothing when he shot me with the other ones.
Yeah. So 500 points of smash a gun, effectively, and one big mech with a custom force field to actually allow them to live. But
So for secondaries, we both took data intercept, which is the mission specific one.
that's a good one.
We both took stranglehold. There were 5 objectives, and I took raise the banners high, and he took pierce the veil. Now this is a deployment where you're kind of at you're kitty corner from each other, but you're at a long angle. So that means he could get his weird boy down in the bottom right hand corner. He can deploy in his deployment zone in the bottom right hand corner and be very close to my board edge. So he can, if with a good advance roll, he could start Pierce the Veil, which is just cast this power 3 times within 6 inches of your opponent's board edge. And your opponent can't be within 6 inches of you when you do this. And then you get like a lot of points, like 12 or 15 secondary points by doing this. So his plan was to advance the his plan was to advance the weird boy down to my bottom, and then bring a 30-man unit down with him to protect. Sorry, a 30-man unit down to protect, and then keep casting it. So I had deployed a single fast mover, 4 lightning claws and a biker in my bottom right hand corner to try to move over and contest that. That was the plan, at least.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody else was deployed out of line of sight, but within range of objectives, so I can run out to hold objectives. 2, 4, 5, 6. This was a 6 objective game, and it
Yeah, Pierce
kind of
not
worked.
Yeah, I mean, it looks if you watch the VOD, it looks pretty grim for you once he's starting to charge into your dreadnoughts. Just because there were still so many boys up. But then I don't know if he whiffed or you got lucky or he also underestimated how good Deathwatch is in melee against Xenos, but like pretty soon you had cleared, I mean, the next turn you probably made him pull 60 or 70 boys off of the table. I mean,
I think that might have been turn 3. That might have been turn 3. And what he had a 30-man unit of boys and a 25-man unit of boys left. He mobbed them up into like a single 55-man unit of boys.
Mm-hmm.
And they came down and they charged into the Redemptor, and then they tagged a Contemptor. I think they tagged another. They tagged a Redemptor and another Contemptor, so that none of them. His plan was that none of them could shoot. So I backed the Redemptor out. And then I put the Ultramarines ability on the Contemptor,
Mm-hmm.
and also gave him +1 to hit from the Tech Marine.
Yep.
And this meant that the Contemptor could fall back out of combat but still shoot.
Yep.
Now I did that because then the second Contemptor, who was not in combat with anybody, could also shoot the same giant unit of boys.
Yep.
And the Redemptor couldn't shoot anybody. He didn't have any buffs on him.
Yeah, but I mean,
to do that.
Yeah.
But that's what I ended up doing. I did like plink shots with characters, and then the 2 Contemptors went into that giant unit of boys and whittled them down very, very hard.
Yeah, it was.
Rerolls were on them and everything. Yeah,
it was pretty nuts if you watch the VOD. Like, poor Lucas is just pulling boys. Like, you're rolling dice, and they're all at -1, so they don't get a save. Like, they were all at -1 AP, all of these shots, because I think you were in Devastator at the time. And you're just rolling wounds, and you're like, pull 8 more, pull 11 more, pull 13 more. Like, it was crazy. And then there's all those, like, the mortal wounds are also killing more boys. It was if that were cinematic, like in a TV show, it was just an absolute like gore fest in the middle of the board there with these 2 Contemptors just going to town.
all the Volkites were their barrels were molten colored. They were all glowing orange.
Exactly.
From
smoke.
There was, you just
Smoke
let
lifting.
it. There wasn't the 3-shot burst. It was just a.
Yeah.
Whole thing going at
It
once.
was just waving it around amongst this horde of boys. Yeah. After that, I haven't watched after that, so I think you got stuck in on the weird boy that was doing Pierce the Veil,
Mhm.
and
And
then
then one of the fast movers got up to the smasher guns and started bouncing through them and tagging as many as they could um, uh, to stop them from shooting. They could only move 3 inches a turn, so once they got deployed, there was a large line of sight blocking impassable. It was impassable piece of terrain in the center, and so I kept that in between my dreadnoughts and the smashes, so we could not see each other the game. But I eventually got a fast mover. The Orcs' main body had been screening the smasher guns, so I could not get in with a fast mover. But once um, Contemptors finally cleared them out, I was able to get a fast mover up there and into the smasher guns to turn them off, a large number of them. And then they started dying left and right, and that was pretty much it.
are smashes only are they only blast? Were they not able to fire into you once they were in combat?
It might only be blast.
This is the mech gun. The smasher gun it's only blast. Yeah. So the tractor gun could have fired into you, but the smasher guns are blast, so they cannot.
The tractor ones were a little farther back. So I remember those were like they were custom built. So like one of the tractor ones was a Tau rail rifle from like a hammerhead, and another one was it was an Imperial plasma gun of some kind. I don't know what it was exactly, but it was huge. And so those guys were towards the back. So
That's
yeah, I went
cool.
into the smashes and just started shutting them down, and the dreadnoughts had free reign at that point.
Yeah, that's really cool. From a like model building perspective, tech on whatever That's very,
Oh
very,
yeah,
very orky, very orky.
exactly. Orc players are known for their conversions. They're fantastic.
Yeah. Again, the VODs, the links to at least his game against the Druhkai player and Fred's game against the Orc player are in the description down below. They're on YouTube, so you don't have to pay for a subscription on Twitch or whatever. Great games. Sounds a little low, so just be aware of that. But otherwise, great games, beautiful boards, nice terrain. Like, look, it looked like a very quality event for sure, and it's just up in Mount Vernon, right? It's at like one of the Best in Faction podcast dude's house, right? Or
Yep.
something like that.
Yep.
Yeah,
Got like two garages and a pool house, and so they put
fancy.
like 15 tables between those three places.
That's amazing.
And then there was a local TO, Jason Bird, and brought a bunch of terrain. So it was full terrain. The pieces,
Yeah.
9 or 10 large pieces on on every board everywhere. The mats and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, this board with your orc player is pretty neat. I'll slap up a screenshot here on this video, but it's like a smash, like a destroyed spacecraft. So
Yes.
there's
The
like
wreck. We're fighting amongst the wreckage everywhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
so like big engine nacelles in one corner, and there's like it looks like a big piece of the fuselage right in the middle, and so on. It's
I want to
very
say
cool map.
that's a 3D printed terrain set that I think that Jason Bird sells.
Well,
Yeah, he owns a game store up there too, I want to say. But
oh,
have to
very cool.
contact
Yeah,
the Biffcod guys to know for sure.
I I 3D print almost all of the terrain on my team's boards as well, but we've got some like hills and stuff made out of the pink foam, but otherwise, like all of the ruins and the craters and stuff are all stuff that I've very, very cool hobby. Yeah, I would like some of this terrain for sure. So Maybe I'll reach out to them, see what they've got. But so fantastic. I mean, just so that everybody is aware, the charity Hammer Prep GT, the top 5 was obviously Fred with Deathwatch in first, Admech in second place. Third place was an Ultramarine Successor, which is actually a pretty cool list. The Best Coast pairings link is also down below. Fourth was Orks, and fifth was Druhkai. I suspect we're gonna start seeing Orks pretty high up in all of these matchups pretty soon. So,
it'll take a little bit to figure them out, but they look pretty good.
yeah. Have you looked at many of the? I mean, the whole codex leaked. It's not hard for anybody to go find, but even just like those Warhammer community previews were pretty great. Like I think the snake bites are gonna be a real menace.
Yeah, I have concerns for the those squig buggies that shoot 2d6, strength 5, -2, 2 damage, indirect fire shots. That's a fantastic profile to killing Marines.
Yeah, and if you put those into like so snake bites, it's just that clan culture. So any unit at all. So you can have their flyers flying around unable to be wounded on less than 4 by anything that's strength 7. Like it's those buggies you just mentioned will be the same. So we're gonna start seeing maybe Meltis come back. I don't know, because wow, that seems like it's not just boys, it's not just infantry. Like it's everything they have is now going to effectively have transhuman against anything that's strength 7 or less. So
Well, for Deathwatch, one of the things that I was playing with early in these list versions was a kill team, and with 5, well, it was 3 Terminators that each had Cyclone Missile
oh,
Launchers,
I love
and
you.
then 2 veterans with Storm Shields and Bolters,
Yeah,
and so they would break apart and go together. So um, that needed a Watchmaster though, because the Terminators move and they'd suffer the heavy penalty when they shot.
you
So they needed a
can
Watchmaster for
you
full rerolls.
you can use Fury of the Proven, but that's 1 CP, and with us only starting with like 7, that's actually a heavy tax to rely on every single turn. But
Right. It's
yeah,
also a pretty expensive unit.
I mean 53 points per model for a Terminator with Cyclone Missile Launchers. It's pretty steep. But I love Cyclone Missile Launchers. I always have. Months ago, I was playing with a list that was kind of a meme list against my friends, where I just tried to bring as many of them as I possibly could. And it's actually oppressive. Like it's pretty good. Against like
Yeah, you
Necron
can keep putting
warriors and
that.
stuff. It's
Yeah, yeah.
so gross.
You could keep putting them back into Devastator Doctrine, so their missiles are -3, or when they shoot all the frag, it's -1.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's not bad.
No, it's not, but they are expensive. But I
Definitely need
mean,
an apothecary.
yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, I love them. I think it's fascinating too that like no other chapter that I'm aware of, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but nobody in the game can bring that many Terminators that are I mean, the OBSEC thing is kind of an aside, but like you would have to bring what, a Vanguard detachment, only bring Terminators, but then I think you only get 1 heavy weapon per squad usually. But Deathwatch we
1
can
per
bring
5.
but Deathwatch we can bring 3 per
3 out
5.
of 3. Yeah,
Yeah, or 3
you
out
can
of
only
3
bring
if you only bring
kill
if
team. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, like it's, and then if you want to get really cheeky, like you could actually in a 10-man Deathwatch Veterans Proteus Kill Team. You could actually bring 5 of your Deathwatch veterans, or 3 of your Deathwatch veterans could have another heavy weapons. So if you wanted to go ridiculous with missile launchers, you could have 3 more missile launchers on vets, 2 guys with storm shields, and then you could have 3 Terminators with Cyclone Missile Launchers, and then you still have 2 vets left to do whatever else you want. So you could put storm shields on those guys as well. That's a very expensive unit, but that's a lot of missiles.
Okay.
That's a lot of missiles.
Oh, yeah. For me, that unit was tied to a foot unit that had the 4 Infernus Heavy Bolters.
Yeah, I was.
And
I
actually did bring a 5th Terminator, or sorry, a 4th Terminator, and he had a Thunderhammer Storm Shield, and he went with the Infernus Heavy Bolters. He was there to tank the shots for the Infernus Heavy Bolter units.
Yeah, so now
you're right. It's very expensive.
Now I'm curious though, so I'm firing up Battle Scribe right now.
3 hours later.
There we go. All right. Finally. Sorry. I've never had to do that under pressure before, so I was like misclicking and anyway. All right. So 3 Deathwatch Terminators with Cyclone Missile Launchers and power axes. You've got 2 Deathwatch vets with bolt gun Storm Shield. You've got your Vanguard vet with a Storm Shield and a Chain Sword because again we're trying to save a few points, right?
Sure.
Storm Shield on you and a bolt gun on the Watch Sergeant, rounding it out with 3 dudes with a missile launcher. You are at 366 points. But they can fall back and shoot. They have all those missiles. You could put a specialism on them if you really wanted to, like,
That's 9 crack missiles. 9 crack missiles.
It's 2, 4, 6. Yeah, 9.
9d6 frag missile shots.
Actually,
blast.
Actually, for the so, and I don't think this is
54 frag shots against units 11 or more.
No, it's D6. It's 2d6. So it's D6 per missile launcher, right? So if you fire this
9 missile launchers.
Yeah, if you fire this monster into like 30 boys,
54 shots.
Yeah. That's fun. If you bring a
that's screaming for the Führer doctrine.
Yes.
You might as well add 30 points to it.
Well, that or the Malleus doctrine for but yeah, let's do Führer doctrine. All right. And then you want to bring a chaplain for +1 to hit and +1 to wound.
Only against the closest target, but they'll usually be the closest.
The +1 to wound is against any range. The +1 to hit is the closest target.
That might be
closest target. Anyway, yeah, it's still. So I mean, you could have a lot of fun with these guys. I think it's a lot of points, do like but yeah,
it is a lot of points. But that's what makes Deathwatch fun.
It's a little ridiculous, but I am into it. So. Yeah, and then, I mean, you have room for, like, 2 of these teams, too.
I like it. Then you need a librarian for the plus feel no pain. You definitely need an apothecary to bring people back to keep this fun stuff going.
So we're already... And was this Battle Scribe?
You probably don't need the librarian.
Oh, it does
because
work.
If the apothecary will give you the 6+. You don't need the 5+ is only good if you're sending somebody out on a mission.
Yeah.
If you're just going to keep them together, then the 6+ is good enough because the apothecary needs to bring them back. They're not going anywhere. The Terminators are still only moving 5.
This will be fun. Let's do an apothecary, vigilant or chief apothecary, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Then we need, like you said, let's do the chaplain on bike because.
Beacon Angelus.
Yeah, Beacon Angelus, exactly. Oh yeah, you could also make them ignore cover with nowhere to hide. So,
correct. They're going to need that.
Yeah, and we're gonna want 2 extra relics, obviously. I picked that.
I bet you there's a way to really to start to make this more efficient. I bet you none of the walking guys need a storm shield. Maybe 2 of them with a storm shield. I mean, hold on a second. Back up. If you take the Dominus Aegeus relic, then you might be able to get away with not so many storm shields, which could save points. But now we're running into character problems.
Yeah.
How many characters are we going to take? There's ways to figure with this. You know, the cheapest Dominus Aegeus would be from a company champion.
That's true.
He's only
for
50,
only 55.
only 55.
Points. Yeah.
He's not a bad fighter just by himself anyway, but now it's starting to get really craziness.
So...
This is when my list became better, when the craziness started disappearing, because I'm going back to I'm looking at version like 2 right now, which took those crazy Terminators out. Well, not all of them. They still have like Deathwatch frag cannon units and furnace bolter units. I even got a kill team of 5 infiltrators and 5 reavers, and I would mix the infiltrators and reavers together, because then all of them would get the do not deep strike within 12-inch ability.
Yep.
And I'd save 30 points because the reavers would save me 30 points.
That's a move that see what I like to do, and it's more expensive obviously, but every now and then I'll do the 6 infiltrators, 4 eliminators. And that way you can pop some HQs and hopefully, and then all of them have the Omni Scramblers, so nobody's deep striking your entire back line. And then you give the Helix Gauntlet to 1 infiltrator. You stick them in with the eliminators, so the first time they take any damage, it's no damage. They already have camo cloaks. So if they're in cover, they're actually at a 1-up effectively. You can smoke screen them because the infiltrator's in there. And then you can transhuman them if you really want to. So you can make somebody waste a lot of firepower trying to kill like 2 eliminators.
Yeah, that's pretty cool too.
Yeah.
And mixing the eliminators with the infiltrators means the entire unit can still forward deploy. When you mix them with reavers, you can't forward deploy anymore.
I think they lose concealed positions if they're not all infiltrators or incursors.
The eliminators have I think the eliminators come with concealed positions.
Yeah.
And so do infiltrators. But the reavers don't, so that's how the reavers lose it.
Right. Okay, maybe that's all right. Yeah.
I also like the special ammo, the special relic ammo that Deathwatch have. So you take just a 3-man unit of eliminators. The sergeant gets the instigator bolt carbine, so that when the unit fires, you can make a normal move.
Yep.
So they can kind of just shoot, fire and fade. But you give him the relic ammo, which doesn't change the gun, so you can still fire and fade. It changes the ammunition for the gun, and it turns it into strength 6 -2/3 damage sniper weapon. So you've got the 2 strength 5 -2 damages from the normal guys. Then the Sarge has the strength 6 with the 3 damage, and then after the 3 of them shoot, they move 6 inches away.
So you need to do the normal eliminator squad so that you have the actual sergeant, and then sergeant.
Correct.
Instigator bolt
special
carbine
ammo.
Yeah, and then so the instigator bolt carbine is assault 1, strength 4, -1 AP, 2 damage, and you can ignore lookout sir with a 24-inch range. So yeah, you could make that damage 3, or you could make that 1 easier to wound, or you could make it a 30-inch range.
Does it have special issue ammo?
If you
this is the ammo. This is my book is like right over there. It's the relic ammo. It's not turning it into a special issue ammo. It's the relic ammo for a weapon.
Oh, are you talking about that Raven Guard relic that lets them ignore line of sight? Or so it's
One second.
Okay.
1 second.
I think he means the special issue bolt catch.
All right, my codex was like 15 feet away from me.
Yeah. Do you mean the special issue bolt, like bolt cache?
Yes, artificial. No, not that.
Artifice. Yeah.
Bane bolts
Oh, the
of
Bane bolt.
Erixia. You select this relic, select one bolt weapon the bearer is
Okay.
equipped with. When that model is chosen to shoot with, you can shoot for that weapon. You can choose for that weapon to fire a Bane bolt of Erixia. If you do, you can only make one attack with that weapon, but that attack has a strength characteristic of 6, AP -2, damage of 3.
I thought
So you
could
don't change
only...
the weapon.
Right. I thought you could only put that on characters. Because special issue bolt cache or whatever you can put on sergeants. But I thought you had to use, like, what is it? Like, is it Sanction of the Black Vault? And I don't remember. Oh, yeah. No, you're right. So if you add Sanction of the Black Vault, that allows you to put Bane bolts onto an Eliminator Sergeant. You are correct, sir.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a
So
weird.
that
That's
unit-
a weird combo.
Well, that becomes quite part. You shoot 3 sniper weapons. 2 of them are 2 damage. 1 of them is 3 damage, and then the entire unit moves after you shoot. You just like pop out, shoot, pop back behind.
Yeah, it's
line of
very
sight.
obnoxious,
And
I love it.
well, you've got a decent chance of waylaying some not the big characters, but those little 4 wound Admech characters are in big trouble.
I think you
You,
can
if you
do
get a 6-2 wound, you're popping a mortal. 3 damage is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, you can put the Artificer Bolt cache on a Centurion Sergeant. Give his Hurricane Bolter special issue ammo as well. You can
Really?
Yes. You can also do that to a Centurion Devastator, which is a better theoretical use of that relic, but then you have to bring a Devastator squad. But then his Hurricane Bolter and his heavy bolters would both get special issue ammo.
That's right, because it's bolt weapons. It's
bolt,
plural.
yep.
It's got an S in it.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right about that.
It's pretty. The problem is then, of course, you have to bring the Centurion Devastator squad starts at 300 points. It's not core, and then the heavy. Yeah, so you're gonna bring 300 points and use a relic slot, so one CP, so that you get 6 shots from the heavy bolter, which could be increased range, or -1 more AP, or easier to wound, or +1 damage, or ignoring cover, which Centurions do automatically anyway. And then all 12, assuming you're in rapid fire range, all 12 Hurricane Bolter shots also get special issue ammo. So you could theoretically be firing 18 shots with special issue ammo from one dude, but it's 300 points to do that for 3 models that don't have an invul, can't get one from the Dominus Aegis, can't get rerolls other than our the Xenos Hunter chapter tactics. So I mean, you're spending a lot of points for a gimmick, but you can do it.
You can go further down this rabbit hole by spending 2 CP and turning that Centurion unit into Crimson Fists for a turn, which means they are +1 to hit if they shoot at a unit of 8 models or more. And
5 more than them, yep.
all of their bolt weapons explode on 6s to hit.
Yeah. Yep. It's
If you're gonna do that, you're gonna spend 300 points. You might as well go all the way.
Sure, might as well. Yeah, that's pretty funny what you can do. But yeah, unfortunately, Centurions are just so. I mean, we can put them in deep strike for 1 CP, thankfully, so like we can, actually bring them down and do something with them. I've had some luck lately with Assault Centurions, but they're only 195 points, not 300. So they come down. It's 6D 6 flamer shots, and it's 36 hurricane bolter shots. So you can melt Druhkai. Some in the case of the flamers, you're literally melting them. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Deathwatch are pretty cool like that. And you know what? It's taken them a while because forever and a day you had very specialized things that you can take in Deathwatch.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until the Deathwatch Codex, which said, oh, by the way, or the new Marine Codex, I should say, which, oh, by the way, Deathwatch can now take everything. You want a whirlwind, you can
Yeah.
take a whirlwind. You
Yeah,
want to
I mean,
you know,
we're very limited in what we can't. It's like attack bike squads, scout squads, devastator squads, and we can't take tactical squads or assault squads. But honestly, why would you when you have Deathwatch vets? They're better anyway.
it was so much more limiting before. You could only take Deathwatch vets and like a dreadnought and a land raider. You know, rhino. You couldn't take. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. Did they take just like basic assault squads? I don't remember. Did Deathwatch take just a basic assault squad?
No,
Maybe not.
no, we can't. The
I don't
only
know.
firstborn Marines we can bring are Deathwatch vets. I think we can bring like scout bikes and
Scouts?
attack bikes. Nope, not allowed scouts.
Maybe, but
Scout-
maybe scout bikers.
Scout bikers, I believe we can. I know we can take attack bikes, but only in a bike unit. So you have to bring 2 normal bikes for every attack bike.
And it's nice. It's nice that Deathwatch have the best bikers in the game. 2 wounds each standard, and easy access to a power weapon or a power axe. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
3 wounds each. Yep, they're good. Yeah, I've been trying. I really want to make like Gladiator Reapers work. I own 2 of them, but they don't have core, and they don't have an invul. So you have to bring a librarian with Psychic Fortress just to like keep them alive. Because
However, Deathwatch, Gladiator Reapers, I mean, Deathwatch are one of the only ways vehicles can get a reroll 1 to wound
it's true though.
by taking Deathwatch and just making sure you pick the right slot.
Yeah, and with
otherwise
that
vehicles
weight,
couldn't do that.
Yeah, with that weight of fire too, like getting a lot of potential 1 rerolls. Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. You love that model. The Gladiator Reaper is really cool looking. At least I think so.
I agree. I got one. It's still in the box because I'm unsure of which version of it to make.
They were actually really
Excuse me.
easy to swap out all the guns, even if you don't do any magnetization. Here, actually, I've got mine right here. Oh, that's right, which you aren't able to
That's
actually see. But the guns slide right in and out of the turret. They're not.
Oh, that's good. So the same thing on the impulsor.
Yeah, and then on the sides, they just kind of, you can rotate them out, and then they like pop straight out, or at least they do normally. But now it's totally fighting me, so I look like a liar. But there it goes. Yeah. So if you want to just build it, and then you can put in anything you want, because you don't have to magnetize anything. It just all pops right out.
Oh.
Well, it's coming up on 3 hours now, Fred.
No problem.
Thank you so much for this awesome interview. I learned a lot. It's really cool how you use those Proteus, fast mover teams to just like harry the enemy in their deployment zone by turn 2 all the time. Moving through buildings, I think, is like horrifically undervalued by a lot of Deathwatch players, but it is so good.
I agree.
Um,
I agree.
yeah. So very cool. And then I love that you got to actually fight 3 Xenos players, and they were even 3 different Xenos factions. The only ones you didn't get to fight were Tau and Nids.
There was Nids there, but there was not Tau there. Yes.
Yeah. So, thank you very much. Good luck at Charity Hammer next month. I think the Lone Star opening is happening right now. Actually, it is Friday, the 23rd. So we'll see. There are 3 Deathwatch players there. Actually, one of them is bringing a lot of Cyclone Missile Launchers, which has me overjoyed. We'll see how well they actually do. Yeah. Thank you again, Fred.
No problem, Rick. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'll have this up soon, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. So,
All right. Take care.
yep. Have a great day, man.